Here we go.
Straight from the smoldering ruins of the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, it is the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com. I, of course, am the real Brad Bell, and joining me today, as always, is
Barbecue 17, also known as Jerry Reed.
As well as
Andrew Stokes, also known as Andrew Stokes, also known as the king of all podcasters.
We have a ton of news today. It's been a completely epic week as far as that concerned. So we're going to keep checking out short. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. What have we been checking out this week? So Barbecue 17, what have you been checking out this week?
What have I been checking out this week? I have gotten on this really huge kick of watching The Room, the Tommy Wiseau film from 2003 that's been called the Citizen Kane of bad movies. It was written by Tommy Wiseau, directed by Tommy Wiseau, it stars Tommy Wiseau, it's produced by Tommy Wiseau.
Where's Tommy Wiseau from?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
No, nobody really knows. We even just bought, like, my wife and I watched it, and even though she was like, this is a terrible movie, we've been talking about it pretty much nonstop. And
I think I have a Tea Party friend who said he was from Kenya, but I'm not sure if that's true or not.
He sounds like he's from somewhere like in Eastern Europe, but he apparently may have lived in France for a while and Louisiana for a while. He has this really unusual accent, and so the movie's it's really bizarre. I mean, it's a drama, so it doesn't seem like it's an intentionally bad movie. There's some decent acting. The thing that's so weird about it is it had like pretty decent. I mean, $6 million production value, which for a short film is not bad at all. No, sorry, not a short film. For an independent film, that's not bad. But like they do weird stuff. He simultaneously shot the movie on 35mm film and digitally.
Sounds like a bit of a waste of money there.
He bought the cameras. He just bought the cameras. Nobody really does that.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
There's scenes where they're outside on a rooftop and they're green screened.
So when you're watching the film, can you tell if it's 35mm or does it look all digital, or can you just never tell?
I mean, it's kind of back and forth. He's the first person to shoot a film like that.
So what did he do? Cut in the digital with the 35mm
Depending
scenes,
on the shot.
Or so he changed cameras.
Yeah, so
on the
he shot them. The cameras, you can look at pictures. The cameras are next to each other. They're like next to each other.
So he shot everything on both then?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds like
crazy.
a waste of resources. But what's the premise of this movie?
So the premise of the movie is this guy, Johnny, played by Tommy Wiseau. He's a banker, and he does something at a bank. We don't quite know what he does. And he's getting ready to get married. They never say fiance. They always say future wife and future husband, Lisa. He seems like the most perfect, just charming guy. He just always buys things for Lisa and does special things. But Lisa decides he's boring, and she starts going after Johnny's best friend, Mark, played by Greg Sesteros. And it becomes a love triangle kind of thing. And this movie is just so odd. I mean, it's things like that where they green screen these scenes where people are on, just chatting on rooftops. Mm-hmm. There are plot lines that not only do they go nowhere, they just are random. Like this girl's talking with her mother about one thing. The mother goes, well, it's official. I have breast cancer. And then it just goes on to another conversation.
That's awesome.
I know maybe I missed it. What year did this come out,
2003.
2003.
And so what has happened is this movie has really taken on a life of its own. Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sesteros actually attend a lot of showings of this film. You can go on the Room's website, and you can actually pay, I don't know how much it is, but you can pay for the rights to show the movie. Mm-hmm. And they do question-answer sessions. And there's a whole audience participation aspect of it now. Like, you can find a great, document where in the background of, the apartment that most of this movie takes place in, there's, a framed picture of a spoon. Mm-hmm. And anytime you see it, you yell spoon and throw plastic spoons at the screen. People show up at these screenings and wear wigs and stuff that look like the characters, and sometimes people will get up and act out.
And this isn't to be confused. There was like a room 237, which was kind of about the making of The Shining and all. This is something completely
this is the room. This is
different
completely
here.
different.
Okay,
This is completely different. This is a this is a drama. This is a drama. Sorry, we all took a drink at the same time. So, Brad, what are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking Dunkin' Donuts, our proud sponsor. We just signed them on board. Joking about that. Drinking a Dunkin' Donuts cookie dough latte.
Cookie dough.
Delicious.
It says it has cookie written on it in marker, and I really thought Brad maybe went to Dunkin' Donuts and told them his name was Cookie. And, because like how some places will write your name. I'm drinking a orange mineral water.
Sonic has a new... new flavor for their slushes? They have a blue raspberry nerds, and they actually put nerds in the drink.
That sounds like a choking hazard.
No, it's just they're nerds. How old are you?
I'm saying maybe I give some to my kid.
Even a kid, I'm sure could swallow a nerd whole. I mean, even the largest nerds.
Clarify who Owen is for the listeners out there.
I don't know, some random child, but but I saw it as like how they have like the different drink flavors that you just add to drinks.
Yeah.
Well, it's listed as part of there too. So I'm like, well, can I get like a sweet tea with nerds, like a Coke with the nerds on it?
That'd be so weird.
I really want to do that. What time is it? We got time. We can make happy hour before this is over.
All right. Let's move on from the room. Andrew Stokes.
What I've been checking out. All right. Well, see, there's what I've been checking out this week. There's what I want to talk about, what Jerry wants me to talk about,
and me as well.
And and you as well. And what I've honestly probably been checking out the most this week. So we'll start with the honestly, which is House of Cards. I finally started watching that. Now my semester of school is over. I have some free time, and I'm about halfway through the first season. And that show is really, really, really good. Have you watched it yet, Jerry?
I have not.
Do you find yourself rooting for Frank?
Yeah, it's weird, and that's one of the things about Game of Thrones. That's another thing. I'm continuing to read Game of Thrones. I got about 100 pages left in book 4. And Game of Thrones is one of these weird things where sometimes I'll find myself rooting for someone just because it's their chapter. Mm-hmm. And it's like not necessarily like I was like this one person had this plan. Now I'm like, oh, I hope this character can pull it off. And I'm like, wait a minute, why? Like this is a horrible thing this person is planning, and I don't have anything against the person there.
I'm probably the earliest because I know Brad's watched everything of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've read pretty much through the end of the 4th book.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through the 1st book.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking Tyrion, man.
Yeah.
That's everybody's favorite.
I would tell you,
much.
I don't want to say too much, but
And that's just I'm reading.
There are
I haven't
some
seen the show.
There are some people who I go back and forth on, like, do I like this person or not? Because I think the book series does a really good job of having characters that are dynamic, I guess. Yeah, it's like when you see it from their point of view, it's kind of like, okay, you're going against this other character, but I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. And there was even something in book 4 where I hadn't really thought about these two characters existing in this world because they've always been in like different places, and somebody was talking to one about the other. And I was like, well, of course this person would like this. They're on both the same side. And it turns out, oh, no, this person hates this person. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess that does, like, the person said why they hate him. I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot about this other, it's just really, it's interesting to see all these different dynamics.
Very interesting. Even some other books, like, one of the books that sort of does that jumps back and forth with each chapter being a character was the Wheel of Time series.
Yeah.
Although it really mostly focuses on, characters who are heroic. And so, more of the good guys than anybody.
With Game of Thrones, though, it's so hard. It changes from, I guess, book to book, season to season, even episode to episode, who you are rooting for. The dynamics of that show, that story change so quick.
I think that's one of the things that happened just recently is the reason I was rooting for the person was because their plan was so complex and not convoluted, but it was just like, I just want to see if you could do this thing. Like, I want to see if you could pull it off. Don't think they're going to because things never seem to work out for people.
House of Cards, though, it is the Underwoods victimizing everybody in their path is what it feels like when you watch the show. So it's you know in your head, like, I should not root for these people. Yeah. They're terrible people. I mean, from the get-go, that's really not spoiling anything.
No, I wouldn't say they're terrible people.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
He's not the nicest. He's definitely out for himself and his wife, and he's just out to for his own power and stuff, and he's a little vindictive. You can tell that from the first episode because
So that's what you've been checking out, but you said
so. There's also I'll talk about what you guys want me to talk about.
All right,
which is Hush.
Finally, we got you to read it.
Read Batman.
I have not read it all.
Okay,
I've only like 4 issues in.
Okay,
as I've been reading a lot of Game of Thrones and whatnot, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's Batman. It definitely.
Yes,
I guess Hush was part of a regular series of comics.
Yes, it was.
So there is a little bit of that
it
where
was
I'm
part
like,
of the regular Batman series.
So I'm like, okay, I don't know why Oracle doesn't like Huntress or whatever, but you know what I mean. So there's like little things like that.
Sure.
And I'm still learning things. From what I understand, I guess I don't want you guys to say anything to me about it, but from what I understand, the identity of Hush is supposed to be big news, I guess, or it
was a big secret at the time.
Okay, and
absolutely. Do you know it? We're not going to.
I don't think I do, but having read the comic, there's definitely someone who I'm like, I'm not going to be surprised if this person is Hush.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, I'm only so far in, but at this point, I also don't care who Hush is. Like, I want to know more about the character, but like the identity of Hush. I know I'm supposed to because I know outside of the comic, but just reading the comic, I'm like, I'm not wondering, who's this person's identity? I'm just want to know more about the character themselves.
That may be my second favorite big Batman storyline besides the Long Halloween, and Jeff Loeb wrote both. And Andrew, you hate Jeff Loeb, so I
do not like his work.
You didn't like his Marvel stuff that much,
right? So we'll see. Like I said, I'm only a few issues, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
So I like some of the stuff that happens with Batman. I like I like having the different characters and the different people in Batman's
and the
Batman
art.
universe.
I mean, the Jim Lee art is fantastic.
Yeah.
I really think this is the book that defined what most of those Batman characters looked like for pretty much everything up until the New 52.
Absolutely. They had Jim Lee just was on a panel for the Batman 75th anniversary at WonderCon.
Yeah.
And
Kevin Conroy and Kevin Smith and all them.
Yeah, and Jim Lee was talking about how when he first come to DC, they're like, all right, you're going to do Batman. You know, he had done X-Men at Marvel and all that. And it's like, what villain do you want to do? And they said, well, how about all of them? And Jim Lee is notorious for drawing very slow with his art, having trouble meeting deadlines.
That's kind of why the All-Star Batman series just sort of dead in the water. I mean, one, it was crazy as anything, but two, Jim Lee couldn't keep up with it.
The old editor-in-chief at DC, I think it was Dan DiDio.
Yeah.
And now Jim Lee's the editor-in-chief at DC Comics, or at least half of it. But they planned this out a year in advance. Like, he was working on the issues. They kept everything top secret. And Hush came out in, like, 2003, 2004.
I think you're right, yeah.
So the internet was around, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is as far as spoilers and whatnot. But they knew how slow his art was going to be. But it is the finest Jim Lee Batman artwork, in my opinion, because he wasn't rushed. They gave him such a heads up. And he barely made the deadline, and he said, "I'll bet you $200." The editor-in-chief at the time that you can't meet this deadline, even though we're giving you like a year start. And he met it, and he still says he still has that check framed in his studio. Uses it for motivation to meet deadlines now, which he never does. All right.
Didn't cash a check either. All right, so now I won't spend too much time on it, but what I want to talk about, which is Young Justice. Started Season 2, had to get the DVDs because Season 2 is not streaming on Netflix, and my God, what a great show. If the first season was already good, the second season so far is just even better. Like, it's just such a good show. I don't know what you guys are watching right now. It's worthless. Stop watching it, whatever it is.
I'm watching Community.
Stop it. Stop watching Community. Watch Young Justice.
I'm on third season of the Clone Wars. As far as cartoon
stop
watching.
that. Dude, knock it off. Watch Young Justice. Now, it really is. And the season 2 is like takes place like 5 years after season 1, and like there's like a bunch of
gap.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new characters in there.
I like Godzilla,
and it's interesting to see what happens with the original cast as well. And it's almost I'm trying to compare it to something. It's not like Kingdom Come or anything, but maybe a little Watchmen like where like. Some characters are in good places, some characters not in good places, and it's really interesting to see what happened to some characters. Like it gets pretty dark for a kids cartoon. Like
I also think
really
it's funny
good show.
That your Netflix DVDs came to my house.
Yeah, I need to get that
changed.
You
need to change your address.
I almost sent back one already. But I wasn't sure what time the mail came on Saturday, so I'm like, well, I'll just wait until Monday. And I was like, oh, I need to change that address. So, but whatever, I'll just keep coming to your house. It's an excuse
Show
to
up, hang out.
Yeah.
All right, I've also been checking out some Batman comics this week. I finally got in the mail the first 4 issues of Batman Eternal, and this is the 52-week story arc that is overseen by Scott Snyder and James, is it Tywin? James Tywin the fourth, I believe, is how they
James
pronounce
Tywin
it.
Lannister, I think.
Basically, yeah, it is like Tywin Lannister, who was Tyrion's dad. I believe that is how it's pronounced as Tywin. I've heard it on several podcasts. But this is anybody who's worked on Batman, as far as Kyle Higgins, Ray Fox, John Layman, Jason Fabok, Dustin Nguyen, all these guys working on this epic story arc that is supposed to, I guess, tell the origin and clear up some things as far as the timeline in the New 52 for Batman, because the past year, everything's took place in the past was Zero Year in the main title, and now they're making up for it with this weekly series. And I don't really want to spoil anything, but it's basically going back over some territory as far as famous gangsters like the Falcone and Maroni family that Batman The Long Halloween covered in depth. So, Jerry, you and I were discussing this. What do you think about this?
We had a pretty long discussion. That was one of the really confusing things about the New 52 because...
Yeah, I'm glad they rebooted it to clear everything up.
Well...
well.
You know, the original thing was the New 52 was going to be a reboot.
Right.
But then there were things alluded to in the New 52. They kind of started as a universe already in motion, you know? And so, like, Green Lantern really continued over from the pre-New 52 stuff. And that was kind of the same with Batman. That pretty much all the Robins were in place, or had already, Dick was already Nightwing. Tim Drake was now Red Robin. Yeah, he was Red Robin, which had happened, previously. Damian was the new Robin. Everything was set up. I mean, they talked about,
Barbara Gordon went back. Ugh.
Yeah, Barbara had been shot by the Joker and had now sort of, been
recuperated.
Yeah, recuperated from that and healed. So they
5 years they said all this took place.
Yeah,
right?
everything had taken place within like a 5-year period. So you were kind of like, well, what Batman stories,
It's a lot of Robins to go through in 5 years.
Well, I think that was kind of one of the things too. Was really strange thinking like everything in Batman comics had happened just condensed or something.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're exploring it. I would much rather them just reboot completely than have done kind of the half reboot like they did for some characters. Because, Superman had a pretty clean reboot.
Yes.
But Batman and Green Lantern
Lois were never married. Things
Batwoman
like that.
also had, was really just a continuation of what had happened previously. So I'm glad they're exploring those things. I obviously reading them in the trades. I'm behind. I'm just getting in 0 Year this week.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit confused because now this was about last summer. Scott Snyder did like a 3-hour interview with Kevin Smith, and you can go download that on his Batman on Batman podcast. It's great listening. But he said they were asking him this question: how did this take place over 5 years? And he was saying basically what he did was he pulled the biggest Batman stories, and he listed off a few that I can remember off the top of my head, like Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, Death in the Family, Death in the Family.
Yeah, because Death in the Family is referenced in the New 52 many times.
But The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, all those kind of Hush, all those kind of quintessential Batman stories over the past decade. And then he said that's how...
from the early 90s, maybe the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah, so I guess the past 30 years.
Really everything from the real reboot of Batman Year One that Frank Miller did after Dark Knight Returns has been referenced.
Absolutely, it has. And he said we kind of pulled from all those major, quintessential Batman storylines to lay the groundwork moving forward. And now it looks like this is contradicting everything he said on that podcast. In Batman Eternal, they're going to go back through and kind of tell their own version of this stuff, which is not a problem because I was getting upset over some of the stuff. And finally, I realized, Jerry, some of this stuff I was having a problem with them retelling happened in 97. Yeah. It's a while back. So it's worth checking out, though. It's they're quick, to the point, not many ads in there. It's only a $3 a book because it's going to be out every week. But, I mean, as far as artwork and story, it hasn't took a hit yet. We'll see when it gets to, like, issue 30 and they're trying to meet deadlines. But Snyder's been good about keeping his quality up.
Yeah, that's true.
So, check it out, Batman Eternal. So, the biggest part of this week's podcast, maybe even even bigger than Godzilla, which that's pretty big if it's bigger than Godzilla, right?
Massive.
Pretty big.
Yeah,
especially the American Godzilla, a lot fatter too.
Yeah, he is a lot fatter.
the teaser poster for King Conan, right? That's what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about
Hercules trailer actually.
Yeah, there was one that hit a couple weeks ago. Yeah, but that was a while back. We posted it on the site. But we have a ton of epic news to get into, guys. So let's go ahead and get started with epic news this week. A ton of epic news, but we're going to start with some Mighty Morphin news. All right, Lionsgate has plans to make a Power Rangers movie, a live action, as you would assume it would be, because we really hadn't seen any Power Rangers cartoon, but it did say that in the press release. Power Rangers movie, is it going to be serious? We don't know. It has Saban's blessing, and we do know it will be Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Andrew texted me this at work the other day, and I was like, okay, shut up, dude. This is not true.
I couldn't believe myself. I had to verify. I had to look at other websites when I found out. I'm like, this is like a late April Fool's.
Is this going to be like a dark, gritty Power Rangers
They
reboot,
haven't clarified. That's the thing.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And listen, I feel like there's a lot of news this podcast that we are all excited about, except for me. I feel like I want to be like a dark cloud of doubt on most of these news items. And this is one of the news items both. And this is one of them. Because Saban said when they announced this movie, he congratulated Lionsgate, praised Lionsgate for successfully launching franchises such as Hunger Games, Twilight, and what's the
Divergent.
Divergent.
Now, none of us have seen anything from Divergent, just to clarify.
That's true.
So we can't.
And I like
speak
Hunger
to that
Games,
movie.
and I like Hunger Games, but the Power Rangers, especially the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, are teenagers with attitude, and these movie series deal with teenagers with drama to different degrees and stuff, and with attitude, sure. And it worries me if Power Rangers is going to go that route. It worries me both from what the script is going to be. It also worries me as far as what its prospects are in the future. Because I feel like Power Rangers, I've read this point right now, is either going to appeal to children, or it's going to appeal to us older fans of the old Mighty Morphin. And if this is targeting teens, those are the people who probably are at least going to jump on a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers franchise.
Well,
and if the movie too is just, it could be cool. Again, I like Hunger Games and Twilight. We like to diss it a lot. It has some redeeming qualities to it.
It's popular. I mean, I think with the press release, from Saban's perspective, here's a studio that has really built 3 successful franchises off of established material.
Right, $1 billion franchises.
I mean, once again, if I was doing that, I wouldn't care that the merits of how good or bad I thought the movie was.
Well, sure, from their perspective, sure. I'm just worried about from a fan's perspective what I want to see out of a Mighty Morphin
Here's what I'm
movie.
thinking. I'm going to jump in. I think the target audience here for this movie is going to be parents who are the age to remember Power Rangers who will bring their kids with them. Okay. I mean, that's it. You're getting kind of like what Transformers did a couple years ago. I mean, I know it was broad, but come on, it was targeting people who at the time were probably in their late 20s, early 30s, who had kids, or who remember Transformers from when they were children, and then who were bringing their kids to the movie and buying their kids the toys and the merchandise.
I'm picturing now a Megazord looks kind of like Optimus's design. And I'll say, man, like we know nothing about this movie.
Yeah.
And we've ever since it's announced, especially Brad and I have been talking about this like almost nonstop. And like we don't know anything about this movie. We know nothing. Other than that they're making it.
Let me say this. After years of watching, all these countless 80s properties, 70s properties be rebooted, G.I. Joe, Transformers, turned into feature films. And I was talking to Andrew about this. Of all the properties I loved when I was a kid, it was Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Batman, Spider-Man, Star Wars. Those were like the big 5 for me. And Power Rangers has been the least enduring thing because all of those others have come through and been reincarnated for us in some form or another.
A lot of times, too.
Because most of those other things came out a good 10 years prior to Power Rangers. Think about it. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero hit in 1982. Okay, before I was born. I'm born in 83. So, 10 years prior. Transformers. I think 84 that Transformers hit. So you're talking about they were really targeting...
Even Ninja Turtles started in the 80s.
Yeah, and the toys came out 87 or 88.
Right.
So you're talking, once again, Power Rangers is kind of a little,
older.
It's a different generation.
Or younger.
It's a different generation.
It is a little bit of a generation.
And so there are
gap.
plenty of... I mean, I sort of hit a lot of those properties much younger. I mean, Master started in 82, Universe, but I kind of got into it even as a pretty young kid. So... They're wanting to target adults who kind of have come back into that nostalgic phase, sort of late 20s, early 30s, where people are starting to have their own kids, and you pass it down to the next generation.
And it's interesting because, like, even Transformers, we've had different incarnations. And Power Rangers, even though each season, like, it's its own thing, it's still supposed to be the same canon from the very beginning to what's still on TV today.
If this is a new incarnation of it, that's a big deal.
When we were kids, though, Andrew and I are just a few years younger than Jerry. Nothing was bigger than Power Rangers.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it was
huge.
We can say these other things have endured with us, but this was the pinnacle of our childhood.
I
so
remember
popular.
The neighbors being like, "Oh, this Electronics Boutique just got the Power Ranger figures in or whatever," and it was just it was
hardcore,
crazy.
I mean, I was definitely into Power Rangers. I mean, I was probably a little bit old. I mean, it's definitely older than you guys, so I would have been in late grade school.
Right. And I was in like second grade, first grade.
I was older, but man, I went to Power Rangers Live twice. I've told that story on here before. I went twice. So
I want to see how they're going to approach this. I'm wondering if Lionsgate is the only studio that had an interest in this property. I'm wondering if any of the other bigger studios, such as Sony, such as Warner Brothers, Universal, had any interest in this property.
Y'all may not be able to answer this question, but doesn't Disney own the Power Rangers? They used to.
For a little while they did, and then Saban, I guess, bought the rights back to they're exclusive again. But for a while, that's when they, like you say, a lot of like the middle seasons, they're filming in New Zealand and stuff.
Gotcha.
And they definitely did have the rights, and I'm pretty sure Saban, I don't know if they gave up the rights and then bought them back or how that worked, but I know it's back to what it kind of originally was.
Well, best case scenario, I'm just like, what is the best this movie can be? What is the worst? And I'm kind of preparing myself for in the middle. And I'm thinking at the best, obviously a dream would be like to have Guillermo del Toro do this film, direct it. That's probably not going to happen.
No,
I'm looking for somebody like John Chu, somebody like that who did G.I. Joe Retaliation and did a great
He's
job.
Doing the follow-up, Jim the Holograms.
If it turns out to be as good as a G.I. Joe Retaliation, excuse me, I'll be very happy because I want this to be... I don't know.
Like I said, I don't mind also if they do, like, again, going back to the properties that Saban himself named, I don't mind if they do have, like, some of this drama, if they do mix it up, like, and like, there's a little more team interaction than just a straight action movie. You know what I mean? I'm not going to mind that too much.
It's a difficult property because it is sort of slapstick. Yeah. Sometimes with the Bulk and Skull type stuff. Yeah. It's sometimes campy, but sometimes it is.
Make my monster grow.
But at some points, it is some of the stuff.
Well, some of the later seasons are seriously dramatic. There's one season where a Pink Ranger dies. Like, she dies. They kill one of the Rangers off in one of the later seasons. Like, it can be dark at times.
My dream for this franchise is a trilogy where we have the first movie with Rita and Goldar. The second movie, we have Green with the Evil. No, it's Green with the Evil in the second movie. Okay. That's the whole storyline. Okay. It's the Empire Strikes Back of Power Rangers movies. Then the third movie, we have Lord Zed.
And White Ranger.
And
that's right. After the first one, and of course after the first movie, they have to tease the Green Ranger after the credits. Yes. And then when they defeat the Green Ranger, that's when he also loses his powers in the second movie, and that's why we need the White Ranger for the third movie. This writes itself.
Say what you want to about the Transformers franchise. They have a ton of weaknesses, but they play it serious. The stakes are high. Like, the world is on the line, and they take themselves maybe too seriously at times. Has been one of the complaints about that franchise. But I really hope that Power Rangers takes itself that seriously. I don't want it to be taken lightly.
It would be very interesting to see a Power Rangers film that does take everything serious and tries to make characters like Goldar and stuff, the putties, make them menacing, and add some real excitement to it.
One of the things I'm really curious about is how much of this is going to be, like they specifically said, Mighty Morphin. Yes. Are they going to have a character named Jacen and a character named Kimberly? And like, as far as I'm concerned, they have to change it somehow because they can't do an Asian Yellow Ranger and a Black Ranger. That's not going to happen in this reboot. I can't see that happening.
Just because it's politically incorrect.
Right. It was supposedly it was even a mishap in the first one. There was a different character cast as the Yellow Ranger. Like, you can even see the original pilot episode did not have Trini, as we know her, in the yellow suit, and it was just kind of coincidence that an Asian actor took over. I just can't see that happening, personally.
I believe you, but I believe we can be like too politically correct with some of these things.
But I also still don't see it. I don't see why we couldn't have this white guy named Zach who's a party guy, you know what I mean? Or even a black Jacen as the Red Ranger, you know what I mean? Like, race in the Power Rangers, especially Mighty Morphin, is just up in the air, honestly. Especially their names are so generic. I think the biggest thing would be
just having a diverse group.
Yeah, exactly.
And have the different tropes, have a kind of a hit
the
girl.
Smart guy, there's the pretty girl, there's the tough girl, there's the jokey guy, there's the nerdy guy, then there's the leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm not really worried about diversity. If they get it right,
I'm just curious. It makes me curious as to how much of this is going to be a reboot and how much is going to be right on the original. Like, is there going to be Jacen the leader, regardless of what
it's like the same. What if they just get the same people? Well, they can't get all the same people.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Let me clarify that statement. I do want a diverse cast. That's not what I meant by I don't care about diversity.
All white Rangers.
I'm saying, but I'm worried about like the tone and feel of the movie and the script and the director more than I am that kind of stuff.
No, I'm not worried. That's just one of the biggest question marks in my head, and I'm really curious about.
I'm really excited to see some of the characters when their dialogue actually matches up with what their mouth movements are.
And what will the mouse move like on the helmets? That'd be interesting.
Oh, I hope not. That would look weird.
That would look, well, look, it's going to look
Finster going to come back. Oh, man.
That's my favorite character.
Finster. Squat and Babu. I love Squat and Babu. Scorpina. Or what was it? Scorpina?
Yeah, she came in with the green with the evil saga.
Yeah. She showed up every once in a while.
Yeah. This could be a $1 billion franchise if done right. If Transformers can be a $1 billion franchise, I believe this can.
Well,
here's
one of the benefits. Power Rangers has never really gone away.
Right.
It's not. Some of these properties have either gone away or they've faded into just a limited... I guess a limited exposure for like fans, like G.I. Joe. I mean, G.I. Joe. Yes, they've had toy lines, but there's been huge periods of time where it's been like comics geared towards adult fans, or toy lines that were just geared towards adult fans. Transformers was one of those properties that really had a show on the air every few years. Pretty much had toy lines fairly consistently.
Transformers Prime and now whatever the new one is.
But even Beast Wars. You had Beast Wars for years. Power Rangers has always had stuff on the shelf. Yep. What's interesting, there hasn't been a lot of Power Rangers stuff that's catered to the adult fans.
No comic or anything.
Until the last few years where you've had the Legacy, the Legacy toy line.
But that's just from a collector's point of view. We've had no stories targeted toward us.
But that was kind of the initial thing, is put out a $50, $60 Metal Morpher and see, okay, what kind of fan
Mighty
base...
Morphin Metal Morpher.
What kind of fan base do we really have? And maybe they're really pleased with what the results were.
Maybe that was a litmus test. I have no idea, but the results
I was wondering why we couldn't at least have gotten a comic. I'm surprised it hadn't happened, but I guess some people want their properties to say children's properties.
Yes. That was Saban's thing. He had went on record saying that I don't want to turn the Power Rangers into something darker, gritty, because I don't want to lose the appeal.
Even though I don't like it, I respect it.
But there was that Power Rangers comic that was supposed to come out a few years ago, Andrew. Do you remember that? You pointed it to my attention. Did that ever get released to your knowledge?
I don't remember what you're talking about. I was going to go somewhere dark with that.
No, I believe it did. There was a comic book. I believe I think IDW was going to do it, and it was going to be not. It didn't look dark at all.
I remember this. I remember
Topless Robot covered
It's
it.
like a Red Ranger on the cover or something, right?
Yeah, and I don't believe it went anywhere.
What
If you
happened
know
with
about it, shoot us an email, leave us a comment or something. But let's go ahead and move on from Power Rangers. Y'all
All right.
want to, guys? Let's teleport out of this conversation. All right.
Back to action.
Let's move on to the photo that sent ripples across the internet this week.
All right.
That was the release of not only the Ben Affleck Batmobile, which is all we thought we were going to get, a photo of that, but of Ben Affleck in the costume.
Oh, that's the photo you're talking about. I was
Yes.
thinking a nude celebrity photo, but that's fine. We can talk about that.
No, just
Batfleck.
just Batman here, Batfleck. So, Jerry, being you and I are probably the bigger Batman fans right now, but Jerry, what do you think about this?
I'm a big Batman fan. I love Batman.
But look who you're sitting with. Come on.
Bunch of little
Batman.
bat sheep over here.
So I absolutely loved the look of the costume in the picture. Very Frank Millerish, okay? Which, makes sense. I mean, Zack Snyder evidently has obviously has a very, strong connection to Frank Miller's works, being that he's worked with Frank Miller with 300, but the short ears on it, the stubble, the
Big logo.
Yeah, the larger logo.
When they announced this project, too, at Comic-Con last year, he read a passage from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns
Yes.
to kind of announce it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, really loving it. Love the modern utility belt. I mean, I like that when you look at the costume, if you look really, really closely, you can see that there's actually wrinkles and folds. This isn't just the standard Batman movie armor that we've come to see in pretty much every version of Batman since, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton's take on it. This looks like more of a traditional dynamic uniform. This is a very classic Batman, but a very modern Batman in terms of what he looks like in most of the modern interpretations.
It looks pretty like it could be the definitive movie suit, kind of like we just saw in Mark Webb's Spider-Man suit, that when he was moving, you actually saw the ripples move and things like that. So I'm excited to see that. But Andrew, there's something I want to talk about plot-wise and tie it back to this photo with Batman and Superman.
Okay.
But what did you think of the photo?
Well, I guess I'll bring my dark cloud of doubt over this one as well. I love the look of this suit. Frank Miller's Dark Knight, probably one of my least favorite Batman suits, though. But I still like the look of this one. It's really well done. It does look traditional. I don't mind these armored Batman that we've seen, because I think they kind of make sense.
I love all different versions.
But I really like this one because it's classic.
Yeah.
Even though the big logo is, it's kind of... There's a lot of things that are definitely scream Frank Miller.
Yeah.
I don't mind the puffed up look of them and stuff. I think it looks really... Even though it's not one of my favorite designs of Batman, I think this one looks really good.
Which, it is mine. Brad, I was telling Brad the other day, Brad, what's my favorite Batman?
He said the Dark Knight, not the Dark Knight Returns, but the All-Star Batman
It's
and
the
Robin.
All-Star Batman and Robin version. The book might be crazy weird in terms of writing, but the look of that Batman and his ferocity and like his bulk and the design of that is my favorite Batman look.
I was going to say, the other thing is, though, the idea that this costume brings with it. Though I like the costume, if Frank Miller's Batman is the Batman we get, I'm not going to enjoy that.
Why?
Because this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is not only a Superman sequel. From what I understand, this is also what's going to kind of lead into the Justice League film. That's not the Batman I want to see in Justice League. And it's
Too serious of a tone?
Yeah, he's too serious and too dark.
That brings me to my point. Go ahead.
Frank Miller's Batman is different from... That didn't happen. Frank Miller's Batman is just... He's
dark.
He's
brooding.
older. He's really dark and aggressive. He's not the Batman I want to see team up with the Justice League. I have a hard time believing the rest of the Justice League would want to team up with that Batman as well. And in a Superman sequel, I don't want to see a Superman sequel where Superman gets beat up by Batman.
I do.
I do not want to see that in any way, shape, or form.
Let me bring this full circle here.
I bought my ticket for it already.
I had one of the concerns that Andrew had. So we watched this Superman movie that was produced by Christopher Nolan and had a very almost like, hey, this is the Batman Begins of Superman movies. They played it serious, not much cant. I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it for what it was. However, we see more and more of this. It does feel like it's going to be more comic booky as far as we're bringing Wonder Woman in. We're bringing Cyborg in. All right, there's been mentions of Aquaman and all this. I wouldn't be surprised if they just renamed it Justice League, although they said Justice League is coming after and Snyder's directing both. But it seems like this needs to be a more almost popcorn comic booky, like Avengers-like tone from what they want to go for, what they want to achieve. But everything from Man of Steel indicates dark, brooding, serious. And this photo would portray that as well. I just don't know how all this is going to mesh together, Jerry.
I do hear you there, because Man of Steel really had that same tone as
The Dark Knight,
as the Nolan Batman films. Yeah, and I'm bringing everybody together. I do. You're right. I do have a hard time seeing that without doing a more Avengers-esque tone.
I think they could do a darker Justice League. I think it'd be harder, especially some of these characters like Wonder Woman and Flash don't come across as dark, gritty characters to me. I can see how you could do it with Green Lantern. I can see how you could even do it with Cyborg.
I could see Wonder Woman. The thing to me is, once again, now you're bringing this universe where you have, Amazons and like people in failed science experiments, and you have all kinds of crazy stuff you're bringing together. And I think it gets harder to suspend disbelief when you're trying to take a very serious tone.
But that's how you're like, well, they already had Superman. How much more unbelievable can it get? But they played that as, what if this really happened? You built
that
story
very seriously the whole way through,
and it kind of laid the foundation. Yeah. Okay, I get where we're going, and some people have complained about it that it's too dark,
Yeah.
But I believe it was two very different brands, and between Marvel Studios and what DC was building. Hey, on one side we have the darker side of the equation, the more realistic. What if this happened? That's the way DC's TV stuff had been with Arrow as well. That's the way the Dark Knight stuff had been. That's the way Man of Steel was. And then we have this more comic booky feel with Avengers. And I like having that differentiation. Two completely different brands. That is a nice way
to handle things.
But they're going to try to transform this, morph it, if you will, into this something completely different, Jerry.
One of the things I wanted to jump back on with Andrew was about the Frank Miller Batman.
Okay.
That
listen, and again, I wouldn't mind seeing a Dark Knight movie.
Yeah.
I just don't want that Batman in these films
here's the thing.
Specifically.
Once again, I'm thinking also you have to look at some of Frank Miller's other times that he's written Batman.
Okay.
That, I mean, granted, there's some
Year One,
All-Star Batman and Robin, which is kind of crazy. But
Dark Knight Strikes Again, kind of crazy.
But some of those, once again, Dark Knight Returns of Dark Strikes Again, you're talking, that's like Batman at the end of his career.
Is that what this is going to be? And as far as the timetable for these films? I don't think
it's going to be that.
Well, they've established just an older Batman.
I'm thinking, though, he's a mature Batman. I'm
not
thinking
a young, starting off Batman.
I'm thinking this is probably like a Batman
at the end of the Dark Knight.
As pretty much anything that would have taken place pre-New 52 since about the mid-late 90s. Where Batman was, he was mature. He was definitely in his late 30s, if not early 40s even. Mm-hmm. He's not the young guy. He is, he is a older, mature character.
That's fine. I just don't want this super gruff, just hyper aggressive kind of Batman. Like,
that's how I like my Batman.
But I'm gonna say, what do you need when you're surrounded by all of these? If you're bringing in Superman and everyone, realistically,
you look at what the Justice League is supposed to be, and these characters like Superman, who I think is going to be transforming into this, and people like Wonder Woman, who are kind of seen as these idols. And, you know what I mean? To get them to work with Batman, they have to both trust, you know, Batman, but also they have to think about their image. That's one of the things that's always kind of like a thing in Justice League stories is, you know, the Justice League, they're, you know, it's a group of super people. They're not really for us. That's something in Young Justice Season 2 is the Justice League has grown since the first season. And this guy is, you know, there's aliens amongst us, and they're going to rule us, and they're going to take us over. So I think that kind of Batman wouldn't work in a Justice League film,
maybe we can transition to the Batman that you want. Maybe when he comes in, he is more gruff and, you know, darker.
So he'll become like Wolverine. He'll get nicer.
Well, think of how,
exactly.
Think of how Batman functioned at the beginning of the New 52 Justice League. I mean, people thought he was crazy. They were trying to arrest Batman. You know, they're not.
I'm fine with that to a degree. I guess,
they're not understanding him. I mean, there's the great scene in the first issue of the New 52 where, you know, Green Lantern like confronts Batman, and Batman just like steals his ring really quickly.
I don't like that.
I love that part. He's like, "Oh, it's just a ring." Huh?
So I don't mind. And also going back to like the Batman and fighting Superman. Don't mind if Batman shows up, has some kryptonite. Sorry, I didn't keep hitting the table. Batman shows up, has some kryptonite, gives Superman a run for his money, and it's kind of like a learning lesson to Superman that, you know, just kind of be on your toes. And if he knows that Batman is just a man, I don't want to see Batman beat up Superman.
I really don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either. It's just this Frank Miller-esque costume has all these things attached to it in my mind.
The best thing that DC has done, not counting comic books here, talking live action stuff.
Young Justice.
Post-Nolan Batman is this Green Arrow show. And they've hit it out of the park from the tone, the feel, everything. They've really built that character and grew it. And say what you want to about DC on the film. They're lacking and behind Marvel Studios big time. Yeah. But they've got their TV stuff figured out, it looks like, as far as Arrow and Flash looks like it could be decent. And let's think about this, guys. We know we're probably going to have Cyborg. We're definitely having Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. Can we please, DC, I know I've said this before, can we, if the Flash is as successful as Arrow is, and Arrow's been really successful, can we use these guys in the Justice League film? That's
what I think is really strange is with doing a Flash movie right now on the verge of DC. You know,
are they planning a Flash movie? Because
doing a Flash TV series. On the verge of getting ready to do a Justice League film. It's kind of like
contradictory.
Are you gonna bring the same guy in? Or are you gonna do? Because studios seem so weary about doing that.
Yeah, they do. Despite that, these have built-in fan bases. Yeah. I feel like if it was Marvel, they would take that risk. Like they could do something that Marvel is doing right now. All right, they pull stuff from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, that was established first in the movies S.H.I.E.L.D. and Coulson. But if they want to be different, they could do the opposite. Presuming the Flash shows any count, which we don't know if it will be, but Arrow is very good. So, let's talk about real quick before we move on from Batman, the Batmobile.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
To me, we couldn't see all of it. We saw the cockpit. We saw behind with the tires. It looks like, to me, a mix between a bunch of movie Batmobiles. I thought Tumbler from behind, and from top, I thought kind of Burton-esque.
Just classic, Tumbler mixed with the classic kind of Batmobile.
Looks a lot like the modern, most of the modern Batmobiles.
I think it looks really good. Yeah.
The Batmobile does look good.
I think the Batman suit looks really good, too. You know, regardless of what he turns out to act like in the movie is my biggest concern. But both the costume and the Batmobile look great. Wonderful.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm trying to think of Ben Affleck, what it would be like if he was playing this.
That's nothing too. I can't picture Ben Affleck as this older
Batman.
You know,
I mean, I can see him as the mature Batman, but I don't see him as a Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
where this is like Batman in his maybe late 50s.
Watch The Town. Have you seen The Town?
Yeah, I've seen The Town.
So
watch it, Jerry. I've heard so many complaints about Batfleck, and it blew up. Twitter did when that was announced. The guy, everything he's done recently, from Argo to The Town to writing and directing Gone Baby Gone, has been epic.
Daredevil. The problem with that movie is not Ben Affleck.
I agree with you, but a lot of fans don't.
I mean, he's not the one that wrote the fight scene between him and Elektra on a playground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like Daredevil. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my favorite movie, but I enjoy it.
Pretty good.
And the director's cut's even better. But some of the problems with that movie are not the actors in there. You know
Absolutely
what I mean? It's
not.
just some of like the plot of it. It's just kind of a little wonky.
I'm excited about the cast. I'm excited about everything I've seen. There's only one thing that makes me apprehensive. I want to see the Superman sequel. I want to see Batman and Superman. I want to see that. I don't want to see Justice League yet. All right, tease Justice League, but don't give me Justice League yet. Don't build the Trinity yet. Hint toward that. But let's see Batman and Superman start to, maybe start off as enemies, then build their relationship. But let's move from Gotham City and Metropolis down to Louisiana, guys. Let's talk about Gambit and Channing Tatum being cast as Gambit. We had a rumor of this about a year ago, Jerry. You and I talked about this on the podcast. There was a rumor that...
It was early this year.
Was it early this year? Well, it feels like it was a while back.
It was the episode when we broadcast in my hobby room.
Okay, yeah, that was probably about when we did I, Frankenstein.
That was I, Frankenstein,
in that episode. However, Channing Tatum, Gambit. All right, Channing Tatum's gotten a lot better as an actor, but Gambit to me is, I'll go ahead and throw this out there, the most overrated X-Men there is.
Most overrated.
Now, he'll say
X-Men.
Wolverine's what Andrew's
most
probably going to say.
overrated. I'd probably say Wolverine is most overrated, even though I like Wolverine. But I mean,
Wolverine's the best at what he does.
Wolverine's becoming the Batman of X-Men. I've said that a lot of times. He's just becoming that character, has to be involved with everything. He has to always win everything.
What a keen observation, 1992.
Well, Jerry, you and I were talking about
we
this.
Talked about
and
this.
we were talking about how we've both grown to like Channing Tatum
most
a lot.
overrated X-Men.
Hold on.
Gambit?
Since G.I. Joe Retaliation, not Retaliation, G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, we hated him. Now we like him a lot more.
I just thought in Rise of Cobra, I mean, he was Duke, so he was supposed to be the main character and was supposed to lead that movie, and he was just dull. Since then, though, Retaliation, I really enjoyed a limited role in that film, but I liked his interaction with The Rock. I haven't seen any of the Jump Street films, but...
Good interaction with Jonah Hill. He plays well with others.
He was a good Superman.
Yeah, good Superman in the Lego movie.
Yeah.
He was in, White House Down, once again.
Jamie Foxx.
Pretty enjoyable. There are just some actors that I think if they don't have good people to play against, they don't work well.
Matthew McConaughey is one of those guys. He's reinvented himself as this character actor that plays well with the others, like on True Detective.
But you saying he has to have somebody good to work off
Works well. I mean, the most recent stuff he's done, like Dallas Buyers Club. I can't remember the guy who... Jared Leto, who won he won Best Supporting Actor. They were good playing off of each other. I hadn't seen that film, just going off of reviews I've read. True Detective, he's a 10 on that show, and Woody Harrelson's about a 6 or a 7. I mean, he outshines him.
Yeah.
But his interaction, his banter back and forth.
What's it?
It
but
makes him
I've seen
great.
Matthew McConaughey do things like the Lincoln Lawyer, where there's a lot of times where he's kind of by himself.
I enjoy him, but a lot of people hate that movie, and they think he doesn't play well by himself.
Yeah. I think there's some...
But I disagree. I agree with you, Jerry, on that.
But...
Have you seen Mud yet?
Mud,
Yeah.
have you? I hadn't seen it. Does he carry that film?
He's really good, but I guess he does. He is always interacting. It's more about this kid than it is about him. So anytime you see him, he's always talking to somebody.
He is great at that, and he has realized that and had what they're calling a reconnaissance. So,
wow. I'm not sure if I'm trying to think what else I've actually seen with him other than Mud.
Sahara.
I'll tell you one movie that I think about. He started out promising in his career, A Time to Kill.
Oh yeah, that was
Sandra Bullock. Actually, Joel Schumacher directed this right after Batman Forever, I believe, and before Batman and Robin. He is excellent, but he is great interacting with Sandra Bullock in that film. Everything I've seen McConaughey excel in, he plays off of somebody very well. He outshines them. He's the better of the two usually, but that quick tongue and wit that he's able to come back with.
Where's the thing? I just don't think Channing Tatum would be that interesting if he were just Gambit, if they were trying to do like a standalone Gambit.
They are.
film.
That is the plan to do 2. They want to do, and I'm fine
I
with
only
him.
saw the Apocalypse.
I saw another report that said they want him to be in Apocalypse.
He's a cameo in Apocalypse.
And then do a standalone Gambit film. I'm fine with Apocalypse. That standalone Gambit film scares me.
I like Channing Tatum just fine. But as far as I'm concerned, from what I understand, X-Men Days of Future Past is supposed to fix some of these screw-ups in the canon, these X-Men film canons we have. So now that they fixed things, they're like, well, let's take a character who we've already had in a movie and cast somebody else to play this actor or to play this character.
Oh yeah, because they had
And they already had a good actor who played Gambit. Taylor Kitsch or something.
He was a really good Gambit.
He's a really good actor, and he was definitely not. He's barely in the Origins film, and he's not the problem with that film at all. And I want to see him. I wanted to see more of his Gambit. I know Jerry doesn't like the way Gambit was portrayed in that movie necessarily. I don't really remember it too well, honestly.
Yeah.
All I know is I think he has kind of the look of Gambit.
Yeah,
he's already played Gambit. He's already, in my opinion, I mean, he's not the best actor in the world. I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah,
But I've barely seen him in anything other than Friday Night Lights and a few movies here or there, Lone Soldier and whatnot. I mean, I think he's fantastic. I've been wanting to see that Gambit return. And now Channing Tatum does not look like Gambit to me. When I think of Gambit, I don't think of Channing Tatum. When I say Channing Tatum, don't think of Gambit. Again, like Channing Tatum, and if they turn Gambit into... Because Gambit's kind of like this sly... He's not like Spider-Man, but he's not the most serious guy all the time. There's different versions of him. Channing Tatum, I can kind of see do that or whatever, but it's just... Regardless of a Gambit standalone film, I just don't understand why we're recasting Gambit. That's the thing that I don't get.
Let's get to the heart of the problem. Number one is... It's fine having Channing Tatum play Gambit in as not a cameo, but as part of an ensemble cast. Yeah, kind of like it looks like Bishop's going to be in this X-Men Days of Future Past. All right,
and a lot of these, other than like the first one, all these X-Men films have had some, people. Colossus, has always kind of been there, but he's barely done anything.
So that is fine. All right,
okay.
Gambit carrying it's not just Channing Tatum carrying his own movie, it's Gambit carrying his own movie.
I wouldn't mind if they do a Gambit movie, they call it Gambit, but they have Rogue in there too.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be great. I mean, those characters...
Channing Tatum needs somebody to play off of, which Rogue may be
Jonah
a solution.
Hill can start playing some mutant. Let's start casting it now. Who's he going to be?
The Blob.
Oh, come on. He's lost weight.
He's gained a lot back, though.
Yeah,
All right, and Gambit's not an interesting character. Tell me why you think Gambit's interesting. What makes Gambit a good character?
Me?
Yeah, either one of you.
I mean, the times I've seen him, he kind of is...
Exactly.
I'm not the biggest Gambit fan. You say he's overrated. I don't understand why you're saying
he's Gina's favorite X-Men.
He's a lot of people's favorite
I think, my sister I know really likes him. I mean, he's just kind of like this suave. Wow. He's not a good guy, but he is a good guy. Kind of. He almost reminds me of Catwoman a little bit.
So he's an anti-hero.
No, that's not an fair comparison. Catwoman.
I'm saying Gambit
in his allegiance.
Yeah,
in his allegiances.
Gambit came about during kind of the whole anti-hero boom of the of the late 80s, early 90s, and so he had the very unique look. He had a very un-superhero-ish outfit for the time. He had the coat. He had the sort of the unusual colors.
He uses the playing cards.
Yeah, the playing cards. There was obviously a very strong visual appeal. I mean,
that's it.
No, I'm still talking, Brad. Hold on,
calm down.
So there's a very strong visual appeal to Gambit. Secondly, he had I think he had an interesting power the way he charged things. I mean, that's kind of
Bishop does that same thing, and he's a way better character.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Well, keep
lastly,
talking.
I think one of the things with Gambit is, and Andrew already covered this, was Gambit did kind of go back and forth. You had a tough time understanding where his allegiance lied. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he was very loyal to individual people. You saw that a lot of the time. He was very protective of Jubilee. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Gambit was one of the primary characters in the animated series. So for a lot of people, that was their first and biggest exposure to X-Men. Over the years, Gambit has had The relationship with Rogue that he's formed has been a really important part. I mean, of developing him as a character, being part of a relationship where physical contact is, difficult and impossible.
We've had that with the Iceman, and it's all going to be the same canon, like Andrew was saying, after Days of Future Past. So what good is it going to do to have Gambit come in and build a relationship with Rogue now?
Well, it's not that's not the question I'm answering. I'm answering the question of why is Gambit a popular character?
Because of his relationship with another character is why he's a popular character.
No,
Gambit on his own cannot carry a comic. He can't carry
Why
a film.
don't you like Gambit?
Well, because there's nothing there. There's no great memorable backstory. His best moments are interacting with Rogue. He has a cool power that he can use energy to maneuver. What's the word I'm looking for? He charges things. Yeah, like Bishop does the same thing. People like him because he has a stick. Everybody loves the superhero.
Everybody loves a good stick.
Daredevil, Donatello, whoever you want to say. They like that bow staff element. Some people do. All right? They like him. One thing I like about him.
There was that one episode of Arrow where his string got cut.
It's not a
highest rated episode
there's nothing to the character. There's no great. What is the definitive Gambit story?
I will say that I don't think there's a definitive Gambit story, the same as I argued with Superman at one point. That I thought the same thing with Superman was he was more known for.
Well, there's better ones though. There's, like we said, Death of Superman, All-Star Superman that was pretty good in there. There's a few that there's not a lot of Superman, but Superman.
So you can't even come up with one definitive Gambit story, but he's overrated.
Yeah, well, people love him. Everybody you ask who's your favorite X-Men, it's either Wolverine or Gambit.
Because a lot of people, like Jerry said, grew up with a 90s cartoon, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure there's other properties we can think of that for, like, more nuanced nerds as we are, where we don't kind of, like, shun some people.
Every time a Gambit comic comes out, they're like, there's been so many Gambit #1s, and I'm not just talking about back in the 90s days, Jerry, where we had an immense amount of #1s. I'm talking about here in the past 10, 15 years. And every time the series gets canceled, all right, people pick it up, they read 1 or 2 issues, and they realize there's not much there, and they scrap the series midway through. Mm-hmm. Is that not a decent argument of a character can't carry his own? He's good playing off of other characters. I like having him as a part of the X-Men. That is fine, guys. I'm fine. I'm not trashing him in that respect. I'm saying carrying his own story, which they say he may in a solo film, worries me.
I do like... Oh, sorry, Andrew.
I honestly forgot what I was going to say.
I like his Cajun accent, I'll say that.
Yeah, it's cool.
He makes a pretty good etouffee.
Is there another character that you can think of who... I'm trying to think of a...
An X-Men? Are you looking for X-Men?
Or an X-Men specifically, sure. I'm trying to remember exactly
what I was going to say. X-Men's not... I enjoy X-Men.
Yeah.
I like Wolverine, but I'm not as big of an X-Men fan as I am an Avengers fan. I'll throw that out there.
Well, I kind of...
I'm not... sorry, I didn't even interrupt. But I'm saying, like... I like Gambit. I think he's cool. But I don't really care for Gambit either way, honestly. Like, if he's not in X-Men, I'm not losing sleep. If he's an X-Men, that's cool. Like, he's not one of my favorite X-Men either, so... What were you saying, Jerry?
I kind of wish that when they talk about some of these standalone movies, like, it seems to me like jumping the gun a little bit. Like, why not wait and see who becomes the standout character?
Yeah, why even Gambit? There's plenty of other characters. We've had some Wolverine.
Let's see who carries the film. Wolverine, Hugh Jackman carried those movies. You might say Wolverine's overrated or whatever.
I don't say that. Andrew
but you might say Wolverine's overrated.
Sure.
But he carried those movies. He had the charisma and star power to sell it. There were other characters in there who may have been better characters taking in all their comic book, factoring that stuff in, but they would have not been able to carry a film. Hugh Jackman could. So let's wait and see for Apocalypse, and then let's see, okay, what actor seems like they could carry the film.
Well, we know Channing Tatum can't carry a film by himself.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, too, is we've had Wolverine. If not Gambit, who from the X-Men franchise do you think could get their own film and deserves kind of their own film and their own story, other than Wolverine?
The one I always kind of wanted to see was Magneto, and maybe
Michael Fassbender as Magneto.
Yeah,
like that kind of like early Magneto.
I think that could be pretty decent.
The Young Adventures of Magneto. Yeah,
I think it'd be kind of hard with him not set. Well, I guess any
Michael
X-Men
Fassbender's
movie,
a really, really good actor compared to
Emma
Channing
Frost
Tatum.
has her own film.
Mystique would be one I would like to see. That would be fun.
Any X-Men film, I think it's going to be hard pressed not to be shoving kind of a bunch of other mutants in there. I think the Wolverine.
That's always
did
been
best.
the strength of X-Men has been very team dynamic.
But I mean, if we see a young Magneto film, it's really going to be probably a young Brotherhood of Mutants film or something, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm saying I feel like any of these X-Men characters, these mutant characters, as they try to spin off on their own, it's still going to be somewhat of an ensemble cast.
Well, why is that, though? Why do you think that it is? And it's not that way with the Avengers, where we can have Iron Man, Cap, Thor, and be pretty good movies.
Because they are kind of their own superheroes already.
Who teamed up.
And plus, X-Men want... From just a movie studio point of view, the movie heads, they want other mutants in there. They want to be able to tell the fans, oh, this mutant, and in these standalone films, probably these mutants that you haven't seen yet and you want to see. That's one of the reasons Gambit was probably in Origins. This is your chance, come see them. But I think we saw in The Wolverine, it was really more of a Wolverine film. He really did I realized that was his own film as compared to like Origins.
Or they threw everybody in there.
So I think they can do it. I just think like some of these characters, especially the X-Men characters, just because of how the comics, they're so wrapped up with the other characters in that universe.
Your point is maybe it's an unfair assertion on the Gambit character, whereas a lot of the other characters rely on interactions with each other outside of Wolverine. I get your point.
Because I mean, what would a Storm movie?
Yeah, it wouldn't be that good.
I like Storm. She's a good character, and they could do a Storm movie.
Yeah,
you could do her origins.
Yeah, I
could
could
be
see that
interesting.
actually being fairly
My
interesting.
point was, it seemed like a perfect storm for a bad movie here. With we have a character who is not that interested on his own, and an actor who really needs to play off other people. Yeah, and you put that together, and it just kind of, I don't know where this would go. But is it okay if we move on past?
You could say it's supercharged for failure.
Yes, you could say that. Let's
move on.
All right, last bit of news we're going to talk about today. Star Wars news. We have a couple things.
We got one other news after that.
We do. Oh yeah, we got some video game news.
You want to talk about that now?
Let's go ahead into Star Wars, and we'll do video game.
Good, because I don't have any dark clouds for the video game stuff. I have dark clouds for the Star Wars stuff though.
So I'm going to start, and I'll just say /film.com is the only place that has this up. And we were originally going to talk about Adam Driver playing Jacen Solo potentially, and we may talk about that. But it looks like at a Hasbro event, there's been a little leakage that we have the next to 2020 planned out for Star Wars films. And we have 2014 is obviously the Rebels TV show. All right. 2015's Episode 7, 2016's Boba Fett. 2017's Episode 8. 2018 will be a film just entitled Solo. It doesn't say Han Solo.
They might change it to Riding Solo.
2019 is Episode 9, and 2020 will be Red 5, I guess focusing on some kind of X-Wing based story. What was Red 5 the call
Red
sign?
5 was Luke's call sign.
Okay, just clarifying there. And they have all this planned out. Is this... Obviously, we want to see the Skywalker trilogy continue. Does this look like a good path for the spin-off films to y'all?
I mean, those are three, Boba Fett and Han Solo are characters that I wouldn't mind watching a spin-off film. I think there's enough there, enough popularity, enough storyline to do something. And I've always thought that a film that focused on the Rebel pilots, we had a lot of video games that were, Rogue Squadron. So a film based on the pilots could be a really cool movie to watch, like a aerial, war movie set in space. Why not?
Yeah, that could be pretty decent. So I'm glad that we're getting. Their main focus seems to be the 7, 8, 9 Skywalker story here. And we have been hearing Boba Fett and Han Solo the whole time. The other one we had heard was Yoda, so it looks like they're going with the Red 5 instead.
Of course, this is a rumor, right? I mean,
it is a rumor.
I can't see Hasbro just divulging this information.
Somebody was at a Hasbro event and saw paperwork or something like that. This is a rumor.
It seems very rumorish, but with some of the... You mentioned some other sites apparently have been asked to take it down. So that always seems to lend more credibility to things.
Yeah, they don't want us knowing exactly. So can we, real quick, Adam Driver may play Jacen Solo. Jerry, you're more familiar with the expanded universe than any of us here.
Yes.
Obviously, Jacen Solo he's one of the twins, right?
He's one of the twins, Jacen and Jaina Solo, who are the two older children
and
of Han and
Anakin's
Leia.
the younger one, Anakin Solo, right?
Yeah, Anakin's the younger one.
Okay, Jacen, they say Adam Driver may play Jacen, and this could focus on his shift to the dark side.
Yeah, Jacen eventually goes to the dark side in the books.
And of course, the rumor was that Adam Driver would play a villain. Jerry, is this a storyline you would like to see translated to film?
I would. I was talking about this the other day with somebody. So they've made it pretty clear that while the new films are not beholden to the expanded universe in any way, they said they would borrow from them. So obviously, it seems like there's going to be children. There's going to be children in these movies.
Which makes sense.
Han and Leia are going to have kids. Luke might have kids. Why would you not use names that fans have had for have been familiar with since like 1992? That seems like that'd only be a positive thing unless you're wanting to do something wildly different. So I would really like to see them take those characters and do something really interesting with them versus, just either completely neglecting them or having to be, slavish to the material that's come before.
I mean, just how, Jerry, I'm asking you this as a fan, too, and spout it out to our listeners. Where can we read this Jacen Solo turning to the dark side? Do you remember what book? Is that coming off of like Heir to the Empire? Or how?
No, it's a much, much, much later storyline, and honestly, I do not remember.
We need this. If anybody knows that, leave us a comment. But that'd be read some source material. Maybe I definitely would like to dive in. There's just not time to read all this stuff. But
there's a lot of
to see a Solo turn to the dark side, to see a descendant of a Skywalker and Princess Leia's son turn to the dark side on film, will have especially with the actor like Adam Driver, who I'll be honest, I've never seen him act, but everybody raves about the guy and how he is perfect fit for a villain. And Evan, I'll respect his opinion when it comes to actors and actresses all day, because he is pretty, savvy when it comes to they can act, they cannot act, and he's great with that kind of thing. And he's praised Adam Driver, so I would like to see that in a film. I think that would be a very interesting dynamic if you have an actor with the gravitas to kind of portray that turn, and a sudden turn, maybe we see Han Solo executed on screen or something. I mean, Andrew and I were in the theater waiting for Godzilla to start yesterday, and we were talking about some of these movies. Star Wars came up. And Andrew turns to me and he says, "Are you really that excited for episode 7?
You said 7? Something. You're just talking about it. I'm just like, there's so many movies that are coming out. And I'll get excited for this film. I'm excited for a Star Wars Episode 7. But it's like, we don't know that much yet. And it's just like, I've done my speculation already, I feel like.
I've never seen the internet catch fire over an upcoming film the way it has with this.
Right.
I mean, it is all everyone's
I haven't seen anything like it since
about.
99.
Yeah.
Or since before that with Episode 1.
But with the internet wasn't, I mean, it was around, but it
Sure,
wasn't
there's a
the
lot
way
of buzz
it is
about it.
now.
It was still crazy in all the other media forms.
It's not just the buzz, because I felt huge buzz with Avengers, The Dark Knight Rises, all that stuff. But this is
a larger encompassing buzz. I feel like
it's larger encompassing, and it's so far out.
Yeah.
And I think what is added to that buzz is the Disney buying the property, is the expanded universe announcements. And I'm so excited because I think Disney is going to handle everything as far as Rebels goes and these new books coming out, the way they have stuff with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And say what you want to about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the way they were able to tie that in, good Lord, has been awesome, especially post-Captain America. So I just can't imagine when I sit in the theater, that brief moment of silence, then the music hits. And then it's like, it was one thing when episode 1, 2, and 3, we kind of knew what was going to happen. We have no idea here.
That is true.
That is what is different this time. So I'll quit gushing about it. I'm sure there's a lot more time over the next 2 years. You will hear me get excited. But Andrew Stokes, you want to bring some news up to end with?
No, I'd like to give my... I'm not giving my opinion on Jason on this.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to... Go ahead, chime in, Jacen Solo.
Because you basically just touched on something that I said... like Jerry said, borrowing names and stuff is cool. I do not want to see expanded universe the movie. I want fresh stories that aren't beholden to anything. And like you said, I want a series of stories that we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to watch one movie. And then, like, after watching episode 7, Jerry's over here, and he's like, well, I can already tell you what happens in 8 and 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see your point.
And especially, but this list here that you read, where there's a solo movie, kind of gives me a little bit of hope, though. If they do,
new hope.
And a new hope in this whole, since we heard, is if they take maybe this story of him turning to the dark side or something, and put it in kind of its own standalone film, because to me, I want to see Luke's kids in 7, 8, 9.
You're saying maybe that's what Solo will be about.
Yeah.
The Solo movie. I didn't think about that. What a twist that would be.
Twist.
What's a twist?
But I want to see, to me, it was about Anakin to Luke, and now, I know Princess Leia, spoilers, is Luke's sister, but I want to see Luke's kids. I want to see a continuation of Anakin's story.
What if he's a Jedi, and what if the whole thing is he has no children because he's a Jedi?
Maybe that's part of it, but to me, the first...
He has a bunch of illegitimate kids all over the place.
I think the Jedi Order in this is going to be different, though.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
I don't feel like this movie is... Or the entire, the 2 trilogies is about the Jedi Order.
Right.
It's about Anakin and Luke. And I want that to continue to Luke's kids.
Well, why can't it... I mean, Solo... It is still a Skywalker descendant, a Solo,
but
right?
Luke was the big guy dealing with Anakin. Princess Leia didn't turn Anakin back to the light side. You know what I mean?
Jared, chime in on this. Do you have a problem with a Solo being focused on?
I don't mind it. I don't have a problem with him being in the film or Princess Leia playing a big part. I don't have a problem with their kids. You know what I mean? Any of that kind of stuff. I just don't want this to focus on their kids. I don't want it to focus on Jacen Solo. Or Jacen Solo.
Well, maybe it has to be Luke's kids have to take their cousin down.
The
or something.
expanded universe has largely chosen to focus more on the Solo kids,
because Han Solo is so popular.
So, but I would be interested. I would be interested to see this movie show Luke as sort of kind of reforging the Jedi Order into something different, where there are where they can have children. Seeing what were some of the things that really caused Anakin's downfall? Some of it was not being able to be with Pat. And, with Pat, I mean, dude had a lot of personal issues as well, but him having to hide the relationship with Padme, all of those things really brought this about. And so Luke maybe having this more open attitude of saying, well, why not be a Jedi and focus on love and stuff. And
gotta purge yourself of emotion, though.
So
that was one of the problems that people had when Luke restarted the Jedi Order in the expanded universe. Is here he went and did all the same stuff that led to Anakin's downfall. A strict, not barbaric, but a draconian version of the Jedi Order. Whereas people were like, it would be more evolved. It would be a more progressive form of the Jedi Order. And that is what I want to see if they even go that route. If this is even focused on him opening a new Jedi temple and things
because he
that.
wouldn't even have that many people to go. You saw how much he argued with Yoda in the original trilogy. Luke is just that kind of character that I feel like would. I mean, there's records there, and he'd be beholden to tradition, and he'd kind of use that as a way to kind of create this thing that the Jedi Order was destroyed when he was born. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he hasn't grown up with that. So I think he would use some of that, but I think just Luke's character, it makes sense that he would be progressive. That's kind of how he's always been.
I think what makes this so exciting, and I know I said this earlier, but is this speculation that what is going to happen. We have no idea.
I just don't want to see expanded universe of the movie. I want a
I agree
story.
with that. I agree with that.
Good.
There are a lot of fans that do.
I wouldn't mind movies based off the expanded universe. I just don't want episode 7, 8, 9 to be something that's already written.
We can go read the book and figure out what happened.
Exactly. Yeah, I just want those 3 stories to be these new original, not beholden. That was one of my problems with Star Trek Into Darkness, is it was in some ways beholden to this story that already happened, and I think those are some of my least favorite parts about it, whereas the first Star Wars or Star Trek was so fresh. That's what I want to see with 7, 8, 9. I want to see these fresh tales, just a new continuation, a logical continuation from episodes 1 through 6.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last piece. Andrew, I know you're dying to throw this in there, so let's talk about some video game stuff.
I think it's just worth noting. I think it's very important stuff that's been happening. The biggest news is Microsoft has announced they are releasing a Xbox One without Kinect. It's going to be the same price as a PS4. And they're not going to have Kinect, which is a huge deal.
And they said in October you'll be able to buy it separately if you want to add Kinect.
The Kinect, yeah. Which honestly I don't. You better figure it out now because the Kinect is going to be over $100.
You like Kinect, Andrew?
Yeah, I love Kinect. If I'm buying an Xbox, and that's the thing, a lot of people call it a price drop, which isn't technically true. It's a different SKU.
It's a feature drop.
Yeah, there's still going to be the Xbox One bundle with Kinect, and that's the one I would buy because my God, it's just the voice control. It's not even for the Kinect games. I use the voice controls on my 360 so much, I can't see not using it for the One. It's even more features.
That's one of the reasons I got rid of my Xbox One was because of the Kinect. I was actually playing Dead Rising.
Yeah.
And I had it paused. And, of course, I wasn't all that happy with my Xbox. And Jerry had called me. We were talking about, I believe, some of that expanded universe. It was right when they had, said that it wasn't going to be canon or whatever. And we're sitting there talking about it, and my Kinect keeps, popping up things, what do they call it, where you pop up a new window? They got a term, snapping. It kept snapping. And I was like, forget this. I hadn't really been happy with this thing from day one. I went to GameStop the next day and traded it in for a PlayStation 4.
What games have you been playing on that PlayStation 4?
I got Killzone. I got MLB, The League.
Okay.
Not The League. The show 2014. And I got Call of Duty Ghosts, which I'll be honest, I have not played at all.
If I remember correctly, this is the Call of Duty Ghosts. Call of Duty is a franchise where Xbox has kind of been on top of it. The Call of Duty franchise is so big, it's why some people almost mixed with Madden. Some of the reasons people own game consoles.
Yes,
Microsoft has always had this deal where DLC comes first and that kind of stuff. Call of Duty Ghosts, best-selling game right now on the PlayStation 4. None of their exclusives, none of that stuff. Now, granted, it's early in the cycle. I just think it's interesting that specifically is on the PlayStation 4 is the best-selling game. That was just a footnote. I didn't mean
the best game, graphics-wise, that I've seen on next gen. I know it's a sports game, but it is the show. I mean, it is where I can say you compare Madden to the show, and you're like, wow. Yeah. And I mean, it was the same. NBA 2K is close, but I think the show is gameplay. It's got some things they need to work out for sure, and as far as navigating the menus, but when you look at it, your jaw drops, and you're like, this is next gen. So I do enjoy that, but it was just. A lot of people I knew said they were going to end up getting a PS4, which is no guarantee that they will. I know you guys are getting Xboxes for sure.
I'm planning on picking mine up.
Most likely. I don't know. I've been on the fence about it lately. Jerry, I know for the next the Arkham Knight, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You're definitely going to get a next-gen console for that.
Yes, that's my deadline. Does
the Kinectless Xbox just icing on top of the cake, or is it now were you on the fence and now you're going to get an Xbox One, or how does that affect you?
It's icing on the cake for me. I never even really considered the PlayStation that much.
Okay.
I just don't like the controller.
Really? Did you play PS2 back in the day?
Yeah, I played PS1.
I grew up on PlayStation.
I had a PS1, PS2. Never liked the controller. I've played PS3s a little bit here and there. And I don't like the DualShock.
Okay.
The menus, and this is something that could be updated. You plug in your PlayStation 4, easy setup. Menus are so easy to navigate.
It's good.
All right, you put in Xbox One, guys. It's not a pain to set up. It's just a lot more time consuming. It's not complicated. But it runs Windows 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it does is run Windows, and it's not, as far as aesthetically pleasing, it is a pain in the butt to navigate.
And they're gonna start, from what I understand, I haven't messed around with it too much, they're going to have to change that interface when the Kinectless Xboxes start coming out. Because what I understand it is set for use of Kinect, both motion control and voice commands. Like the menu, that's how it's kind of set up.
Will it be two different interfaces?
No.
They're just going to overhaul the whole thing, huh?
I mean, they haven't said that. I'm just saying, I don't see why they would. They kind of have to now.
I mean, if you look at where the menu was for the Xbox 360 when it started and where it eventually evolved to, Yeah, I mean, the blades were pretty cool at the time.
Right.
But, like...
It's always evolving, yeah.
It's always evolving. That's the good thing. But, I mean, what worries me here is that I'm not going to say that Xbox is going to become the Zune. It's not going to be that bad. But I really do think PS4's got such a jump start here.
Right.
And a lot of the games are cross-platform. I think, and it seems like Xbox, my brother's a big gamer, plays all the time. I don't. I barely have time for it except for the occasional shooter or sports game. But he says, Brad, he said, with the Xbox, it's more of the same. All right, it's another Halo. It's another Gears of War. It's just...
Halo 4 outsold every PlayStation exclusive combined that year.
I know, no, that's not, I'm not talking about the popularity. I'm not questioning Halo and Gears are popular franchises.
Yeah.
But he says that he seems like all their exclusive
But PlayStation
stuff is
seems to be the same as well.
PlayStation has a lot of great exclusives.
I can't argue video games because I'm not as versed as y'all are.
I'm not going to argue against PlayStation exclusives because, I mean, Last of Us, one of my favorite games of all time, and Naughty Dog, to me, Rockstar is my favorite company in video games right now, and Naughty Dog's right up there with it. I mean, they have some great games, and I don't necessarily agree that... someone like Halo and stuff should be outselling some of PlayStation's stuff that much, but I mean, it's just it's kind of, I don't want to say quality over quantity either, but as far as sales number goes, Xbox has huge franchises. They're making a Halo show. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna throw one thing out there that we can move on and talk about the big man himself, Godzilla. I think that. Personally, I think Xbox tends to be more the system that gamers play.
Right.
I think gamers who play...
last gen, I agree with
think who play a lot of games... I'm not saying gamers don't play PlayStation, but I think there's a wider base in Xbox. And I think that a lot of people who play a lot of different games really wait a while to pick up a new system, to an extent. I think it's people who are more techies that jump out and like run out the PlayStation, but it's going to be this year that I think that really determines what happens once we get all of these things announced. Once you get past that first year, I mean, look at Wii. Look at how for a while Wii was like topping and then all of a sudden,
Wii U's kind of gone a different way. Wii is still hugely popular. I mean, it was, and it trunched 360
It was
and PS3.
The interesting thing when you look at, and I don't have numbers. I don't have these numbers here. But what is interesting to me is when you look at software sales. Like I remember they were talking about with Wii. With Wii, the average Wii had when it was super popular, for the number of systems sold, there were like 2 to 3 pieces of software sold per year.
Right, yeah.
Whereas with like Xbox, it was multiple pieces of software a year. I mean, it had to be like it sold like 11 games a year versus like 2 or 3 for the Wii.
Yeah, it's interesting because the handheld market is kind of opposite of what you would think in some ways. The 3DS is the sales of the 3DS far outnumber that of PlayStation Vita.
Yeah,
but the 3DS, I mean, I own the 3DS. I own one game.
Yeah,
Pokemon. I mean, and you look at the Vita. The Vita has like the highest attach rate. I don't want to say of any console ever, but the amount of games that people buy, like per Vita sold, is outstanding. Honestly,
yeah. It's just that it scares me with Xbox. I was just googling numbers, and my brother had said this, but I just wanted to check it. I checked on Forbes.
Right.
I mean, PS4 sold 7 million, and they've sold 3 million. Xbox. Well, the last number they
shipped 5 million.
I love this. They've
shipped 5 million.
They have shipped them to the store, and they're sitting on the shelf.
There's no doubt that right now PlayStation 4 in that space, not even a year out, has a leg up on them. But that's why Phil Spencer just took over as head of Xbox. They've announced this Kinectless Xbox. What else with it? Games with Gold starting in June. It's going to the Xbox One. There's going to be, at least for just the month of June, there's going to be 3.
They're doing everything PlayStation's been doing because they've been giving away these games too on PlayStation Network.
Right. And Xbox One it is similar. Games with Gold, as of right now, you download the game, you can cancel your games with gold, you still have them.
Yeah.
Xbox One is going to be the same as PlayStation 4 or PlayStation Plus, where as long as you're a gold member, you have those Xbox One games. But it's good because, I mean, I had Xbox Live Gold before games with gold. I don't plan on stopping it anytime soon. So that's not a big deal for me. At the same time, it is one of the reasons I haven't gotten PlayStation Plus. I don't need it to play online with my PlayStation, and I'm not going to hold on to it just for those games either.
PlayStation Plus is not Xbox Live, I don't think, but it is a giant step forward.
The online on the 360 versus the PS3. The 360, in my opinion, just leagues better than PS3.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's a lot more parity all around right now between the PS4 and the Xbox One. They are so similar, and I think that's one of the reasons that the PS4 is outselling the Xbox One, and one of the reasons the Xbox One has to meet that parity. When Xbox Gold kind of started, and you had to pay for Xbox Gold to use Netflix, which was another service you had to pay for, and that was behind that paywall. That was
You're
fine.
Not going to have to.
Yeah,
soon.
but now, starting in June, I believe, June or July, that's gone, and that's another thing that makes it kind of with PlayStation Plus, and it kind of has to be because when you look at it, it doesn't make that much of a difference. I'm not going to cancel Gold now that Netflix is free. I'm still playing online. Jerry's not going to cancel his Gold because Netflix is free because he's still playing online. It's not going to affect that many people. It just looks good. And with these consoles being so hand in hand, that's why you had to get rid of the Kinect. They tried to put Kinect in there. They wanted developers to use Kinect. And that was one of the problems with the original Kinect was X amount of people had them, so why were developers going to make this a big feature of their game? And Xbox One,
add-on peripherals do not usually have a high adoption rate.
Right.
Pretty low.
Yeah.
Well, instead of adding on, we need to move on, guys.
One more thing.
Okay.
So they announced the Kinectless. They've announced like this game with Gold, the update to the program that starts in June. They've announced like the free apps, and also for you, this is something I want to say for you. People who cancel the Xbox Live Gold get however long is left on their subscription. They get that money back. If you cancel it before August, as someone who doesn't have an Xbox One, and this is more for people who maybe were only using it for Netflix and Hulu, you can cancel it before August and get your money back. Again, that's not going to affect a lot of people. People are praising that. It's not a lot of money out of Microsoft's pockets because how many people are actually going to use that? They also announced Halo 5. Like just this past week.
Which sells, we know, is a proven seller. And
the Kinectless Xbox comes out June 9th, which is the same day as their E3 press conference. Yeah. And personally, I can't wait for this press conference because they have already announced a Kinectless Xbox. They've already announced Halo 5. They've already announced all these upgrades to Gold. What are they going to talk about during the press conference? They'll still talk about Halo,
cheaper,
of course.
Console.
I can't see that happening.
That would be the biggest mistake they could make at this time, in my opinion, would be to say we're coming out with it. Besides the Connectless thing, we're all
that wouldn't
in
even
favor
make
of
sense.
that.
Why would they come out with one? But what I'm saying is, like, June 9th is the day of their press conference. This console, this Kinectless console, doesn't come out till then. You know what I mean? All these people are going to be waiting till then anyway. So there's like a month of sales to some degree they're not going to get. Plus, they've missed the opportunity of this big reveal where they could say, you can now buy an Xbox One without Kinect. You can buy it right now. You know what I mean?
Y'all keep talking about Halo, and it is a system seller, but Bungie's making this game called Destiny. Y'all know somebody, Microsoft is taking over Halo. My brother said it's the biggest campaign as far as development and marketing ever put into a video game.
$100 million. That's how much money.
Destiny is going to be Halo, and it's going to be on both platforms, right?
We'll see. I mean, it's an MMO, so we'll see.
It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, there's definitely going to be. It's going to be Halo-esque, and it's going to be on both, but it's going to be different from Halo.
I want something new, is all I'm saying, from this generation, whether it's Microsoft or whether it's
Titanfall.
Sony.
Did you play Titanfall? I haven't played Titanfall.
Titanfall was nothing but an online game without story. And Titanfall 2 is going to be...
I don't understand that.
I know people like Jerry and I like stories with our games.
Some people, but I know so many that only play online. A lot of this Call of Duty crowd that only play online. Yeah. It's not like you can go on story mode and the skills you learn there, transition to online. It's like a different skill set.
Titanfall 2 is going to be on PS4, and it's going to have an actual story. That's what they're saying, right? So,
But I just like that 500 million. I don't know.
That's crazy.
I don't know what the highest budgeted movie is, even for inflation. But I think, from what I understand, it's like around like 250 million, 300 something million.
275,
$500 million behind this thing.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
This thing has to succeed.
It has to
Bungie's
succeed.
going to go bankrupt.
But I think it's Activision that's behind it. They're the one
Okay.
pumping up a lot of money into it.
So-
I mean, that's a big number.
All right, from a giant-sized game to a
Right.
giant-sized movie, let's finally get into our review of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla.
I want to talk to somebody in charge. You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster. You're lying. It was not an earthquake. It wasn't a typhoon. Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there. And it is going to send us back to the Stone Age. God help us all.
That was from the trailer of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla reboot, which Andrew Stokes was very excited about. He was stoked about. The reboot starred Bryan Cranston, Ken Watanabe, Elizabeth Olsen, Aaron Taylor Johnson. It opened May
Elizabeth
16th.
Olsen before him?
Yes, it opened May 16th in the U.S., and it opens July 25th in Japan. So before we get started, guys, I want you to tell me, are you fans of Godzilla?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this character? Andrew?
Fan of Godzilla. Love Godzilla. But,
Jared?
I definitely like Godzilla. I've seen some of the older Godzilla films. I own the original and the Japanese original version. So
As for me,
Gojira?
my brother grew up a huge Godzilla fan, had all the toys and things, and really watched it, loved the Matthew Broderick film he did, and we grew up kind of watching it. I don't hate that film. I enjoyed that film back in the day, and I rewatched it about a year ago and got some, enjoyment out of it. Is it a masterpiece? No, it's a decent 90s disaster film. Now,
Alan Emmerich.
before we talk about the movie, I think we're all going to be in agreement of this, but one of
Are
my...
we?
with this part, I think
Okay.
one of the strengths of this movie, I think one thing they did in a very epic fashion was how they marketed this film.
oh yeah,
I mean, we never really saw too much Godzilla.
except in the theater before the trailers
Oh,
play.
yeah.
There's a car commercial, and they show Godzilla.
Yeah.
in a
I
car
hated that.
commercial
Hated
right
that.
before the movie. That'd be like watching Jaws right before that. There's like a Red Lobster commercial where Jaws just pops up on shore for a minute.
Yeah.
to eat some shrimp during Shrimp Fest.
But that was an error on what? Do you remember the car? Was it
Fiat?
Ford or Fiat?
Yeah, they
Okay.
said something.
Some
He was
Mini
hungry for
Cooper or something.
Italian or something.
That was the error on Fiat's part. I mean,
But still, the studio too, because they could have said, "We don't want you to show Godzilla." I mean, the Taco Bell commercials from I will say that was one of the best things. There were two things that I think the original, not the original, that the '98 Godzilla did better. One, the Taco Bell commercials with the Taco Bell dog saying, "Here, lizard, lizard." Those were awesome.
yeah.
I still remember those.
The second thing was I really missed the Puff Daddy song that sampled Led Zeppelin's
Was it
Kashmir.
I still need to
Yeah.
go back and listen to that.
I mean,
I don't remember
I
that.
love the marketing. Well, let's take the Fiat out of it. But every trailer we saw just gave us a glimpse. It gave us a hint at the destruction.
Yeah.
And it did a great job of portraying the scale, which
Right.
is one of the things this movie handled very well. But let's just get to initial thoughts. Andrew Stokes.
Well, as I say, if it seemed I've seen Gareth Edwards' Monster,
Which I have.
Monsters,
I've not seen it.
and that's definitely his style. And it's what I heard that he was kind of like. And you watch that movie, and the entire movie of Monsters is these hints at the monsters. And I was hoping Godzilla would be the same way. And the trailers and everything made me feel like it was going to be the same way. But I will also say, if they showed a lot of fight scenes and that kind of stuff in the trailers, there wouldn't have been much left for the movie.
Yes.
No.
There is a lot. There's not a lot of fight. There's not a lot of Godzilla in the movie. There's not a lot of fight scenes in the movie. though quality over quantity in my book.
But I kind of knew that going in, right? I wasn't expecting scene
You weren't
after
expecting
scene
fight
of Godzilla.
scenes. You weren't expecting fight scenes. You didn't even know he was going to be...
No.
I did not know he was going to be fighting other monsters.
I was actively avoiding this information, and
I
even
was
knew
too,
this.
and I did not know that.
Oh
So
my
I was
goodness.
pretty excited.
I thought that was cool. It's something we didn't have. And was it 98 when the
98
Roger
was just
film came
Godzilla
out?
against
Yeah,
people.
but I mean, I that's something I was hoping for, because that's, to me, I mean, the original Godzilla isn't that, but most Godzilla films is him fighting other people,
monsters, yeah.
and he's kind of an anti-hero in that he's not worried about saving the city; he's worried about destroying the monster. And together, Godzilla and the monsters normally destroy cities, but it's like, okay, well, Godzilla did save us; like the monsters could have killed us all. So, okay, thanks, Godzilla. You know what I mean? And that's what. And that's kind of the feeling I got from this film, in that Godzilla doesn't care about people, but Godzilla is here to save people
from monsters.
I like that dynamic, that it was something different than pure utter destruction that I thought it was going to be. I really enjoyed that part of the film. It surprised me.
The original Godzilla is all about Godzilla's almost like this force of nature. He's almost like Michael Myers, in that he's not really a villain. It's Michael Myers. They call him the Shape.
The Shape, yeah.
And it's more of an unstoppable force. And Godzilla's that, but obviously this is back in the 40s in Japan. Yeah. Or was it 30s it came out, or was it 40s?
It was actually after World War II.
It was after World War II?
But
they're
early 50s.
Their fear of radiation, that kind of stuff. It's kind of like the same thing. Godzilla was this kind of unstoppable force. The army couldn't destroy him.
Tokyo
and that kind of stuff.
was the immovable object.
Yeah,
Actually, it moved all the time.
Yeah, a lot of it moved. Yeah. So I wouldn't have minded if they went that route. You know what I mean? If they kind of did a retake on that, even though we don't have necessarily that fear of atomic winter anymore necessarily. But I like where they took it. There was a lot of classic Godzilla elements present in this film. There was a lot of good acting going on in this film. I personally feel like that at one point it does get slow.
At one point.
Right. In the second act, leading up to kind of the climax of the film, there's some necessary backstory there, but I feel like they could have tightened it up. And I already feel like there's probably some stuff we didn't see. I wouldn't be surprised of some of the deleted scenes that we see for this film, but it definitely did drag a little bit. They tried to spice it up a little bit, and it's not all Godzilla versus monsters. There is humans versus monsters going on. But I mean, I really enjoyed the film. I'm not going to rate it now.
I'm going to jump in, Jared, before you, if you don't mind.
No problem.
I really enjoyed the way we viewed this film. We viewed it from the human perspective, right? The human point of view. We're never viewing this through the eyes of Godzilla and how he's seeing things.
Right.
It focused on the humans.
That would be an awesome movie, though.
My point is, the main focus of this is not the destruction and not the Godzilla monster or any of the other kaiju, or is that what they call them, Motus. It's not that. It is how this destruction affects people and how they're viewing it. And with such a great cast, this was handled. That was a great way to kind of shape this film with Olsen, Watanabe, Cranston. My thing is, Olsen, great. Watanabe, great. Cranston, great. Just not enough of them, right? It was mainly Aaron Taylor Johnson who carries this film. Jerry, we were talking about Ken Watanabe last night, and the guy was used for exposition.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, he was used to kind of, here's about Godzilla, here's his backstory. He was not even a fleshed out character. Am I pronouncing his name wrong?
I think it's Watanabe.
Watanabe. Okay, sorry. Ken Watanabe. I apologize. The guy
you're
from
probably right.
Inception and the guy from Batman Begins and Last Samurai. All right, Ken Watanabe. But great acting. And we choose to follow the weakest of these four actors through the film's primary story. Right, Jerry?
Yeah.
Pick up on that.
So, one of my things that really bothers me about that some movies is when you have a really interesting cast, or you have some really interesting characters, and the movie seems to pick the most bland, vanilla person to follow. And this movie really follows, you said earlier, Aaron Taylor Johnson throughout most of it.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston was a very interesting character. Ken Watanabe, his character is this researcher who had tracked Godzilla, and his assistant. They seemed like they could have been very interesting characters, and it would have been interesting to see interaction between all of them. But the first thing this movie seems to do as soon as it can is get everybody separated by themselves, and you just don't have that kind of interaction. Yeah, you're seeing disaster happen, but you're not having people to watch them experience it with each other. They're on their own, and it just wasn't that interesting, the parts between the Godzilla fights.
We talked about two actors earlier in this podcast, Matthew McConaughey, Channing Tatum, that play well off of each other and can't necessarily carry a whole film, which is fine. You have Aaron Taylor Johnson's the same. If you look at his most other well-known role as Kick-Ass, he's good as Kick-Ass, but it's his interaction with Hit Girl, with Chloe Moretz, that kind of make those films funny and interesting.
Yeah, with all the other characters.
Yes.
He's kind of the everyman character in a sense, you might say. I really felt that this movie... I thought the pacing of the first act was really good. It was very mysterious. I've seen a lot of people compare Edwards' style to Spielberg in terms of really building up this mystique and really building up all of these things. You know, this mystery of what are we going to see, kind of the sense of wonder. And then the second act, once we finally see everything, it suddenly just seems like stuff slows down.
I agree with that.
And you have scenes where, once again, one character with other characters that we're just not interested in, where there's not involvement, there's not emotion, and you're just waiting for Godzilla to destroy something.
Yeah. Getting into the later parts of the film, it almost felt like, was it Battle LA?
Yeah.
That came out?
Yeah, it was.
Where it's
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, where it's like there's this big event going on, and we're looking at the people's point of view, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But that movie kind of dragged on a little bit of parts, Battle LA, and I kind of felt the same with this. It kind of reminded me of that in some degree.
The first act, as Jerry said, very Spielbergian, however you want to say it, just sit up well in a very Jaws type way. Just that mystery is, man, I can't
Or Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
There is, even in the very beginning of the film, a helicopter comes down.
Yeah.
And I thought of Jurassic Park on that dig
But
site.
you think about those kind of movies. Even think about Independence Day, okay? Big disaster film. You have characters split up, but you split them up with other people that turns into an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jurassic Park, you split everybody up, but you have like a couple groups and a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
This just put people by themselves.
Yeah.
And it was just, it didn't work.
I compared it to World War Z, where it was really just following this one character from place to place to place during, this big event that's going on.
That's kind of... This film, he compared it to World War Z. I agree with that comparison. But it jumps around so much. We not only jump time periods in the film, we jump locations like it feels like every 25 minutes.
I don't necessarily mind that, though. I don't think we don't really jump time periods. We start out pre-present day, but it's not like Man of Steel where it's like, where are we right now? You know what I mean?
That didn't bother me.
But every time I turned around, it seemed like...
It was logical.
Screen, here we go, different location.
Well, because they were moving. I mean, there
Yeah.
was movement in the movie.
It didn't necessarily mind that was
part of
happening.
the
It was
plot.
logical where they were going. You know what I mean? It was following this kind of...
I mean, a lot of big-scale disaster movies do that.
Independence
I
Day.
do that, but it felt like it did. I don't know. Maybe it was just because I kind of not the third act. I got back into it, but the second act of this film, I was out. I was
watching a movie with
groaning
Brad.
and upset.
Watching a movie with Brad is sometimes, no offense, like watching a movie with a child.
Yes,
And when
yes,
he
it is.
gets bored, he gets antsy.
Yeah.
He starts he'll start making a joke or two.
This is crap.
It is. You can tell when Brad gets bored during a movie.
Yeah.
I usually can find, Jerry and I have talked about some enjoyment even out of a bad movie, but something where the marketing's been so great. I didn't
A bad
expect
movie
this.
is better than a boring movie.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and I got bored in the second act of this film. I just did. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I like as an actor, bored me to tears when they
His
were
character just
focusing
wasn't
on
that
him.
interesting. And it wasn't. I mean, I just think the character didn't have much. I mean, he didn't have much to do. But I mean, he wasn't that interesting. He was kind of a one note character. He had a little character development in the very beginning of the film.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of one note. He's just kind of worried about his family and stuff, which we can. But like Jerry said, he's worries about his family, but he's not with his family to worry about them for a lot of the film and stuff. And it's just, it is interesting though, seeing him in Kick-Ass. He definitely seems like this young kid. You know what I mean? He seems like this teenage boy, and this one he definitely seemed like. I mean, obviously, obviously he's a little bit older, but only by a couple of years.
Kick-Ass came out a few years ago. Kick-Ass 2 last summer,
right?
And they had to put like baggy clothes on him, and make him try to look younger.
I mean, he definitely did. You can still tell it's him, but he definitely did play a different character in this.
I felt bad too that I got so bored with this because Andrew was really looking forward to this movie, and there was times I checked my phone 6 times in this movie. It was only 2 hours and 3 minutes, but it felt 2 hours and 45 minutes to me. It felt so long, and I want to hit on 2 things I liked before we move into spoilers.
Okay.
I liked the opening credits, how they did the case files.
That was awesome.
That was, I mean...
And it told a backstory, you know?
Very well. Yeah. Sometimes the opening credits, I think of Spider-Man 3, where it shows the images from the first 2 can be daunting. Just like, oh my God, start the movie.
The opening, opening credits like that, where we're going through, like, made by this, made by that, and I'm just sitting there like normally I hate that stuff. But this one actually made it interesting.
Yeah.
There's a SpongeBob reference, too.
Yeah. It was very well handled.
Bikini Atoll,
The destruction, guys. I will say, if there's one epic thing about this movie, it is how destruction looked and how they portrayed it after it happened. Yeah. We've seen so many like superhero movies. I think Man of Steel. I think Avengers. Big scale destruction. It was handled very well. But this just had a different, gritty, real feeling to it, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
There's this Marvel property where it's about these people. I forget what it's called. Jerry probably remember. Where it's about these people who clean up from superhero fights.
I know who you're talking about.
I don't
remember their names.
I feel like we had a little bit in this. We saw the aftermath of the destruction.
Which we usually don't.
In Avengers, we saw a little bit. We saw some firefighters. We saw some people saying, thanks, Avengers. But we didn't. But this like really showed something. You see like the disaster relief from a lot of these fights and stuff. It was really interesting, really human.
It was. Anything else we want to say before spoilers? Jerry, you got some more?
I just want to say, we talked about the opening a little bit. I thought this had one of the most gripping opening scenes of a film that I had.
It was good.
One of the most gripping opening scenes that I had seen in a while.
Yeah. Where
it sort of, just kicks things off, takes place 15 years prior to the present day, and really just sets things up. I thought it was a really good, gripping scene. It was kind of one of those, like, Jurassic Park or something where you're like, okay, now I am just like hooked. I really want to know Jaws. I want to know what's happening.
They pull you in and get you not only interested in what's going on, but emotionally invested in these characters' lives, which is hard to do in a destruction movie.
And it's such a short amount of time they did it,
and it did so good at the beginning, which is one of the reasons why I'm disappointed later on that this movie dropped so much of what I thought was worthwhile human drama.
Yeah. So, and to really talk about that human drama more in depth, we need to get into spoilers. So let's go ahead and get into spoilers for Godzilla starting now. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it, guys.
Say what?
30 minutes into this movie, Bryan Cranston, who carries that first act emotionally so well, is dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
And from that point on, a part of the film died for me, to be honest with you.
I would agree. I think he was really what anchored this movie as... so in the opening scene, Bryan Cranston is working for a nuclear power plant in Japan.
Yeah. In Japan, yes.
And, he's noticing all these anomalies that are happening on these different charts and graphs, and he knows something's coming. And so, his wife works at the plant as well. She's a scientist of some kind. And goes to the plant, and his wife gets killed by this nuclear disaster that turns out to be related to Godzilla and the other creatures that we mentioned earlier.
Right.
So then the movie jumps 15 years later, where Bryan Cranston's son Ford has moved on, but he is not. He's constantly been trying to find out, what really happened that day. He's been arrested for breaking in to a quarantine zone and finding out that there's no radiation there.
Yeah.
That this place was being quarantined as a...
Yeah, it's been a big cover-up. And the city that they lived in that had this disaster has kind of become like a Chernobyl-looking place.
Yeah. And when they go back there, him and his son, great gripping. That set was amazing.
That was walking through the streets in their gas masks.
Bryan Cranston never sees Godzilla. He gets killed by the Mudu or whatever.
Motu.
The Kaiju. I'll call it
Motu.
Kaiju.
Unidentified terrestrial object.
Yeah, Motu.
Let's say Moju.
All right, I'll call it a Kaiju. It's easier. But he doesn't get killed by Godzilla.
No, that's fine. I mean, Godzilla's not what killed his wife either.
That's true.
It was the other creature, so... He at least knew he was right before he died.
But part of a big thing of this movie was, watching him. I mean, his interactions were introduced to him initially,
Yeah.
And then Ken Watanabe is actually even comes into the film before Bryan Cranston as a researcher who was brought in to look at these collapsed mines where they found a gigantic skeleton that we would recognize as the skeleton of Godzilla and the chrysalis or pod of some kind that that one of the other creatures had hatched from. And we just really don't get a lot from these guys. We
never get to see them interact.
We don't get to see them interact. We don't.
Ken Watanabe and Cranston.
Yeah, we don't. We lose Bryan Cranston. We lose that perspective early on. The way he's driven, the way he's trying to make sense of this, and Aaron Taylor Johnson just never picks up anything other than I've got to go save my family because they're in San Francisco.
He's almost like a block of wood here, is meant to make a Channing Tatum comparison. I mean, seriously, there's moments in this film where I'm just like, why should I care about this guy at all?
I'm going to agree with that.
Honestly, it's a little confusing almost at parts because it's like he wants to save his family, but he's also trying to do his duty. And it's like he had a phone conversation with his wife, and I'm like, finally, you've gotten a hold of your wife. Tell her to leave the city. And he doesn't. And I'm like, wait, no, tell her to leave the city. You know this creature's coming. What are you doing? You know what I mean? This was before the evacuation.
And I won't say the film falls apart, but it takes a massive hit when we hand the baton to Aaron Taylor Johnson to carry this film after Cranston's passing. One thing I want to say about that I really enjoyed about this movie is how they portrayed Godzilla as, I know Andrew hinted in this before spoilers, as a balance of nature. Yeah. How he has to balance everything out. And is it okay for me? I know this is one Andrew really wants to talk a lot about, how they built it was hero building. Godzilla became the hero to save him from the other two kaijus.
But Godzilla's also doing his duty. Like I said, he doesn't care about saving people. Yeah. He just has to stop these creatures because that's what Godzilla does.
And that's what the nature will have.
He's this alpha predator.
Yeah. So they call him Predator, but he's even more mystical than that. Yeah. In that it's not like he devours these creatures. He goes after them, he eats them, and that's how he lives or anything. He's not even kind of predator-ish. They call him that. It's more of a bringing balance to the Force, if you will. Yeah. But the Force here is radiation and not midichlorians.
Yeah, tying that in. Just going on, this was an awesome-looking Godzilla.
So good.
I really loved the look of him, the way he fought, the way he moved.
It was Godzilla.
Yeah.
It was Godzilla.
Godzilla, the creature, was epic.
Yeah.
He really was.
When he used the atomic breath to...
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah, Andrew had a geek ass at that point. I mean...
When he killed one of the final Motu with ripping the jaw open and just atomic breath down its throat... to destroy
that was the moment of the film.
Yeah,
right? That was an epic moment.
The first moment you saw it happening, you see his tail and his scales start to light up, and I'll start elbowing Brad, and I'm just like, it's coming.
That pulled me back in. The part where where Aaron Taylor Johnson's standing there, and Godzilla falls. And that just cloud of destruction smoke. Yeah. And he can't see Godzilla. What an amazing shot. Yeah. I mean, that looked beautiful. Yeah. Everything I could ask for out of a Godzilla.
And the size Godzilla. And like with the monorail scene and stuff, it was just so cool seeing Godzilla come in. It was like, this is Godzilla. He's this huge creature. He's not destroying things. He just can't walk through the freaking streets because he's that big. And then, like, you see the news segment where they show the fight, and you see this creature up, and I'm like,
so
that's
good.
a Godzilla fight. It's a Godzilla fight, and it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I love those old movies, but this wasn't a creature held up by a string and a guy, in a suit.
In a costume, yeah.
It was like but it had that same exact Godzilla feel of those monsters, and it's just, oh man, it was so good.
What upsets me the most is the first act epic, the third act epic.
Yeah.
That second act is
Just drags.
so
Slowed the movie.
crappish that it just slows.
That's
it
what I was
down.
expecting. We had somebody tell us before we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 that it's slow. That's kind of what I was expecting from that. That first scene in Godzilla, that's not what I was expecting. And also, just going into a Godzilla film, knowing just how Hollywood is, I was expecting a lot more fighting and destruction than what we got. A little bit more. I think it was pretty much on par with what I thought. I expected a little bit more, but that middle section just got
I would
really
have been
slow.
okay with the limited amount of fighting
Sure.
if the movement of the film, if the drama and the story had been there.
It takes a long time for Godzilla to show up.
Yes.
And I didn't really care up to that
That
point.
Because we
You know what I mean?
had Cranston.
Once
driving
you've
the
introduced
story.
him, and then you try to go back to this super slow, waiting, that's like, okay, that was not, preferable. It's really not enjoyable. There were some beautiful shots in this movie, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to say one shot that... There were two shots I really liked, but one was amazing. I really enjoyed the scene where they would show Godzilla and you'd see the lanterns and stuff around him. Like he was maybe walking through Chinatown or something, but you could see these lanterns and him, lit up in the sky.
when they shot the flares as well.
Yeah. Great scene in the movie was the Halo jump.
Yes.
Where the military is, trying to basically stop this bomb that they've already put into the city or sent out into the city, and all of these paratroopers are doing a Halo jump into downtown.
Right.
And they have no idea where they're going. It could be such a cloud of destruction.
Oh my gosh!
Hit a skyscraper.
It was just a very quiet, very eerie.
It was
scene.
intense. I'd have loved to have seen that on an IMAX screen.
Yeah, that was a great scene. There was some
Not too late, man.
and that was in the teaser too. The very
and
first
even
teaser.
one of the shots where one of the kids is getting up and walking. Was it maybe when Aaron Taylor Johnson was a kid? That someone's getting up and walking across their room, and you see the kid's feet, and they're walking by like toy soldiers and toy cars, and it's kind of like mimicking what we know is going to happen with Godzilla showing up.
I have a question for you guys. So something I was a little confused about in the film. When Godzilla, before he does the atomic blast, is it just how does he get to that point to where his tail and his spikes, whatever you want to call, start lighting up? And I'm like, okay, did I miss something? Did he interact with gas? Did he eat something? Or he decides I'm going to do it? What was it?
As far as specifically this, it's just kind of an innate ability that Godzilla kind of has. I can't remember from any of the old films that he had to do something to get it's just something he does.
Yeah.
In this one, I think it was just he lied dormant for so long. Maybe he had to work up to that. But
you knew it was coming though, right? Because the tail started.
Oh, before that, as soon as the tail,
yeah.
I was wondering if I felt like they had to do the atomic breath at some point, but it was so realistic, if you will. In this Godzilla sense, it's dark and gritty. Yeah, I was wondering, it's like, are they going to do the atomic breath? Are they going to consider that too much? But I'm definitely glad they did it. And it looked so cool.
Did you see the Mothra reference?
I did.
When the kids were when they had the classroom, there was like a cage that had moths or something, because they had all kinds of moths and insects and bugs.
Yeah.
And there was like a cage that was labeled like moth and then RA or something. After
really?
it.
No, I didn't see that.
And I was trying to figure out, that was kind of interesting.
Speaking of that, I was overwhelmed with Godzilla. How he looked was just so, just dominant and just such a huge scale. It looked amazing. But the kaiju, the Mudu, whatever you want to call them, Motu, I was underwhelmed with them compared to creatures like we saw on Pacific Rim. They were very underwhelming, Jerry.
They really reminded me of the Cloverfield monster.
Yeah, they did.
No, they reminded me
a little.
You haven't seen it, but the monster. They don't after watching them. But when they first started showing up, I thought it was going to be the monsters from the movie Monsters.
Yeah.
I said, "Is he bringing?" They would have made sense in this film because they weren't as vicious looking.
Yeah.
But I liked them. I think they worked as Godzilla monsters. They kind of like right on par. I like the look of them, honestly.
Bragg, you already mentioned it. I think this film is going to definitely warrant some comparisons to Pacific Rim. One, it's put out by Legendary Pictures.
Yes. And Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
It's the same exact group.
So it's, it was one of the things I'm watching. I enjoyed this movie. I liked it. But I'm thinking, man, I really enjoyed Pacific Rim more. Now, granted, Godzilla himself, loved Godzilla himself more than anything that I saw in Pacific Rim.
Than any of the kaiju.
But I didn't like the rest of the movie nearly as much as Pacific Rim.
I just felt Pacific Rim did a much better job world building, universe building, explaining their creatures. The fights were much better. And I enjoyed the fights in this. I really did. But I thought they were more dynamic. This is Del Toro's a much more advanced filmmaker than Edwards at this point.
Yeah.
But a lot of the shots they were able to pull off as far as in bad weather and things, better in Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim was one of my favorite movies of last summer.
Definitely
it made the top 10 of the year for me. I thought it was an epic film.
Yeah.
And Andrew
could not disagree more.
He's dying.
No, I really could probably disagree more. And I don't disagree that much. But no, this is easily better than Pacific Rim in my mind. But I just didn't like Pacific Rim as much as everybody else did. I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it. It was what it was. Never plan on watching it again.
Well, the characters were much better in Pacific Rim. Bryan Cranston aside, Bryan Cranston is amazing, better than any performance in Pacific Rim. But as far as the cast altogether, Pacific Rim outweighs this one by a ton.
I agree with that a little bit. The fight scenes are not better in Pacific Rim at all. The
Pacific Rim had some fights.
He takes the kaiju to space and puts the sword through the kaiju's body. That was an amazing shot.
I just didn't care for it too much. Like,
I know that was.
It's like Transformers. It's like Transformers. One of my problems with those movies.
It's not like
no. One of my problems with Transformers is it's an action movie whose action scenes I don't care for, and that was kind of my thing with Pacific Rim. I didn't really care. Like a lot of people, it's like it's giant robots versus giant monsters. What could go wrong? And it's like it could just not be good. You know what I mean? And that Pacific Rim was all right. Like it was entertaining.
Pacific Rim was so polarizing because people, for the most part, loved this movie.
Hated it.
I don't hate it, but it's nowhere near as good enough as I feel like people is.
Well, when I went and saw Pacific Rim, I had the feeling that this harkens me back to the first time I saw Independence Day, or the first time I saw some of those big
Pacific Rim?
Yeah, where it was something different, and it was just, wow. I'm not saying it's more like Independence Day. Godzilla definitely is just more like other things that I've seen, where I felt Pacific Rim tried to be its own thing entirely.
I went into Pacific Rim with low expectations, and it met those expectations.
You saw it on DVD and Blu-ray, right?
I did see it on Blu-ray, yeah.
Okay.
Not both of them, just the one.
Okay. Home video.
Yes, I did watch it on home video without surround sound, if that made the fight scenes better.
It did.
But
it was pretty impressive in the theater, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was very... the human element was... That's what drove this Godzilla film, right?
Yeah.
They lost it when Cranston was killed. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but they lost so much by killing him off.
They did. I still cared.
I cared, yeah.
And it's kind of a cheap thing. You put husband and wife and a kid, and it's like, I'm already going to care to some degree. You know what I mean? You throw that dynamic in a movie, and you're going to make me care to some degree.
Elizabeth Olsen was good, too. I thought she was a much better actress. I thought she did a better job than Aaron Taylor here. I'd almost rather... she seemed kind of aloof. She was written poorly as, hey, there's a disaster coming on and I can't see what's going on.
Nothing to do with Elizabeth Olsen. I feel like her scenes almost could have been cut out to make this film go faster because it just not too much happened. There was a dynamic with her and her kid. I wish she could have had almost more to do. Maybe see her, maybe she was just kind of with a group of people running around trying not to get stepped on, basically. I would have maybe liked to see her be like, take on maybe a leadership role amongst these victims or something. Her character was almost pointless to a degree as much as we saw her.
It was really just to counterbalance.
Yeah. It was
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
He was part of this attack team almost.
Sure, to show that he was what he was moving towards.
Well,
Sure.
Aaron Taylor Johnson is, like I said, plays well off of others. I can't wait to see him interact with such a dynamic cast as the Avengers cast.
Yeah.
He's going to be great in that. But here it's just, I'm like, I wish somebody else could have played this part.
I just wish that maybe the plot was a little different in the middle. Not so much a different actor. I just think it could have been rearranged almost in a different, not necessarily the events, but it just
get
could have
everybody
been different.
together. Get everybody together and work.
Because they had an amazing ensemble cast with Cranston,
And they
Olsen,
had,
Johnson,
I do like that they had some of those kind of
Hobby.
cliche Godzilla characters. Is you had the science expert on Godzilla, you had the crazy guy whose life has been affected by these monsters and stuff.
Kind of like the Raymond Burr from the original film.
Just all Godzilla films to some degree have these kind of characters. So if you see, you can pick any Godzilla film. There's going to be probably one scientific expert. I wouldn't be surprised in the second movie if we have a military organization based around Godzilla and these monsters.
Let's talk about this for a second because I just pulled it up. We're doing this on late Sunday afternoon, about 5:30 Eastern time. Godzilla made $93 million this weekend, which was very successful.
Again, I was surprised by the amount of people. I was surprised by the amount of people talking about this film, and some of the people who I would not pair Godzilla with in my mind. Like we went talking about the advertising, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to see this movie.
You have great name recognition here.
This is
This
looks like it will be based on the ended and the money news that just broke a franchise. I think we're headed in a franchise direction.
It makes sense
here.
too. Bring Mothra in. Bring a space monster in.
Baragon.
Which is the silver?
Mechagodzilla.
Is that the silver one? Mechagodzilla,
the robot. King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Gedzuki. Bring them all in.
Bring Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah.
Not really.
Andy Serkis
He would not
as
even
King
be
Kong.
close to the height to fight Godzilla.
But in the Godzilla versus King Kong, he was.
No, I know. Yeah.
What did you
He definitely
guys think about the hero building at the end? It was kind of a hokey hero
You said
building.
it was
Is what I
cheesy,
call
I
it.
don't know.
What?
Godzilla saves our city, and people start cheering.
The newscast at
I
the
love
end.
that was what I wanted to see.
I like
it was
the
good.
scene. Don't get me wrong. I like when he goes into
King
the
of
ocean.
Monsters. Godzilla, our hero.
Yeah, that was so. The
And then
writing
scrolling
was
at the
just-
bottom, it says Spider-Man a Menace. No, just kidding.
It was so hokey. It was like
That's what I thought was hokey when in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 when those cranes are coming in.
that was awful.
That was
Let's
hokey.
not get into that.
Okay, sorry.
All right.
Love Spider-Man though.
But whenever that comes up, it's like, oh my god, really?
That was good.
No, I don't mind the cheering.
Yeah.
I love it when he goes in back into the ocean. I mean, amazing.
such a good scene.
His
It
ocean
was-
scenes were great.
And that's a lot of Godzilla films end too. With Godzilla going back and you go, when will he return? Will we need him again?
Well,
Yada,
take
yada,
that
yada.
caption out of there. That's it. I just
Sure.
thought that was a bit.
Yeah,
But that also references the old title, Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
So that makes
That's what he's
the
called. It's Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
excusable. I want to see
Your pardon.
Mechagodzilla. Jerry, you want to see Mothra in the next one?
Oh, I said.
I was going to fight something else.
I said Mechagodzilla and King Ghidorah and Baragon.
And who do you, if you want to, in the sequel, if you could see him fight one other monster from the Godzilla verse, if you will?
Probably Mechagodzilla, but
Me too. Me
Mothra is pretty classic. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I want to see Mechagodzilla in this world.
I want to
that'd
see.
be a bit of a stretch.
I want him to do.
Pacific Rim versus Godzilla.
Yes.
Can you imagine a mechanized beast, the height of Godzilla in this
Jerry,
world?
you read my mind.
I would
wanna
like to see Mothra or something. That'd be
a
cool.
split. The timelines come together, and Matthew Broderick's Godzilla fight this Godzilla.
The worm guy?
Yeah, I want to see that.
Wormzilla.
All right. Now,
Gino, Godzilla, and name
we've run. This is definitely a Godzilla-sized version of the Confirmed Epic podcast, guys. Let's get into ratings. Andrew, you were anticipating this the most. I'll let you start. What would you rate this?
Man, it's tough. I mean, it's gestated with me a little bit now. I loved it when I watched it, but I've it settled in my stomach. It was slow. There was some parts that it just wasn't what I could have hoped it could have been. But I mean, when it was at its best, it was at its best. When it was at its worst, it wasn't that bad. It was just a little boring.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the movie.
I'm gonna it's kind of like the Spider-Man movie. I'm a Godzilla fan.
Yeah.
I'm biased in this regard, but I'm giving it a great.
Okay. All right, Jerry. What about you?
I'm giving it a good. So I enjoyed it. Like Andrew said, when it was great, it was epic. I mean, the beginning, the final scenes, epic. A lot of the middle, nothing bad, nothing where I was like, this is terrible. It was slow, and it didn't manage to keep my interest during the middle points because I just thought it did that cardinal sin of a movie, which is get a great group of characters and split them up as soon as you can, which is always a recipe for disaster.
Okay, I'm going to say, I thought about this for a long time as well, and Andrew obviously referenced the fact I got bored in this film. But I thought about it, a Bryan Cranston epic first act driven by him.
Yeah.
A final epic act driven by Godzilla.
Yeah.
And just to crap middle act that was on the shoulders of Aaron Taylor Johnson all came together for me for a good and a half. I'm a little bit higher than Jerry is on this. A good and a half. I really enjoyed everything with Godzilla in this film. I got sheer enjoyment out of everything with Bryan Cranston, sheer enjoyment, but everything else just did not pique my interest. So, good and a half for me.
Okay, so we're right along the spectrum there.
All right,
Good
guys.
and a half and great.
Jerry Reed, where can we find more of your stuff?
Oh, we'll have to see, but typically it's on the epicreview.com. That's www.thepicreview.com.
What about you, Andrew?
You can follow me on Twitter at ChristJuggernaut, where you can see Brad tweeting at me, but me not tweeting back. You can also find my work on the Epic Review. That's thepicreview.com, where you can see my article of the 2013 top 10 most anticipated games of 2013. I said 2013 twice, but that's all right. It was a good year.
You can find me on Twitter at The Real Brad Bell, REEL Brad Bell. And on the site, I've been trying to be short and sweet, but we've had so much stuff, just so many things with summer movie season going so strong in Star Wars and Avengers and Batman and Superman on the horizon.
If you've listened to this point of the podcast, you know how much stuff there was to talk about this past week or two.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I've been trying to be frequent with the stuff, so you can find me at the Epic Review. Updated the Facebook page, updated our Twitter page. Like us, TH Epic Review on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at TH Epic Review. And Andrew, take us away.
So, we can't forget Andrew's awesome animal facts. So, in case you didn't know, a mastodon, a pterodactyl, a triceratops, a saber-toothed tiger, and a Tyrannosaurus rex are all animals. Dragonzord, not an actual animal.
And that's going to do it for the 29th edition.
Well, I say don't forget to send our questions. Send questions. We want to answer.
We will answer any questions you send.
That's what I'm saying. I actually want to put this at the beginning of the show, but I forgot. So we'll talk about it now. From now until the end of June, any question you send, as long as it's appropriate, and even if it's not necessarily relevant, we'll probably still answer it. We'll answer it. Any question you send, we will put you on the air. We will not put you on the air. We'll put your question on the air. We will answer it. We want to answer readers' questions. If you're still listening, you're the person that needs to send in a question.
Yes.
Send us a question. Where do they send questions, Brad?
To our email, thepicreview@gmail.com. And if you do that, if we read your question on the air, I will send you something, some sort of small prize or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. It may be a magazine, a Star Wars Insider, something like that.
Signed picture of Brad.
It may be a signed picture
of the real Brad Bell, a selfie.
I mean, it will be something based on that we talked about on the show.
Save the date.
It may be a save the date for my wedding. I may
an
give
invitation to your wedding.
I got mine the other day, and I didn't even send a card. Send a question.
Exclusive invitation. So that's it for the 29th episode of the
How
Confirmed.
great would that be if one of the next contest is win a seat, win an invitation to the real Brad Bell's wedding, courtesy of the Epic Review.
And it's going to be a pretty big shindig, guys.
Yeah.
Pretty epic.
Let's do that.
Open bar?
Yes, there will be one there.
Woo, buddy!
All right. We've had more false endings in this thing than Spider-Man 3, I swear.
We've had more false endings than the last Lord of the Rings
Then
movie.
Return of the King,
Yes. All right. So, for the 29th edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, we are out.